200. Find some buddies and get in on some real NHL pool action with the Keniston Super Draft. Superdraft.com. Entry deadline November 1st, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time.
When planning a mini winter getaway, take a step back in time with the historic Grant Hall Hotel in Moose Jaw. Built in the 1920s, this luxurious hotel features classic designs, 58 styles of rooms, the most elegant meeting rooms, and a banquet hall. Spend the day exploring, then enjoy an extravagant, relaxing dining experience at the Grant Hall Dining Room and Burrowing Owl Lounge. They have gift cards too, perfect for stocking stuffers. The Grant Hall Hotel Moose Jaw, your vacation destination in a notorious little city with an amazing history.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sportscage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
The countdown is on, Rider Nation, as we get closer to the CFL playoffs. Today was day number 1 of practice as the Riders get ready to take on the BC Lions Saturday at Mosaic Stadium. And there's a little bit of buzz in the air that we haven't had in a couple of years, that being playoff football, emerging storylines, lots of news coming from practice, and we're going to talk about it today on the all-new Sportscage. Chris Mazurek, along with the voice of the Riders, Dave Thomas. Whether you're listening on 620 CKRM or you're watching our video stream on X or YouTube, we appreciate the support. If you want to give us a follow on X or hit that subscribe button on YouTube, we appreciate it. In just a couple of moments, Paul LaPolice will join the show. Of course, Lapo being a coach here, he was part of that 2007 Grey Cup team. He's got a brand new podcast. We're going to chat with him about that. But Dave, we'll dive deeper into practice today. But from what you saw, have they flushed it like Coach Corey May said yesterday on the Coach's Show with Barney?
Yes and no, referring to the Calgary performance. I think that the team has put it behind them, or at least they're going to tell you that they have. But there's a bit of bitterness there, and of course, the playoffs are looming, so you've got to go ahead and get ready to go, and that's exactly what the team was doing today as they were put through their paces, and even at one point, they were encouraged strategically to ensure that they were providing the maximum amount of effort that they could. I'll explain that later.
All right, it is the best time of year, and let's get to our guest, because you got to know that he's probably loving this. He's a 2-time Grey Cup champion, 2007 and 2019, for some team in the province east of us. He was part of Rider Nation. He was the coaching staff from 2007 to 2009. You can catch him as part of the CFL on TSM panel. And he's the host of a brand new Coaches podcast. Episode 1 just dropped with Rider legend and CFL Hall of Famer Weston Dressler. Welcome to the all-new Sportscage, Paul LaPolice. Coach Lapo, thanks for taking the time. How are you as excited as we are that the playoffs are finally here?
Yeah, it's great to do. Like, I spent 4 hours doing prep today, Chris and Dave, trying to just get sorted out for the stats for both games. And, really looking forward to it.
Now, if you haven't had an opportunity to explore Coach LaPolice's YouTube channel, the playbook is my favorite thing each and every week. So do you do more prep now as a broadcaster than you did as a coach? Because there's an awful lot that goes into those pieces that you put into terms that I can understand.
No, not even close. The coaching is a lot more time, but I got to learn different things like Canva, a thumbnail, and I don't know how to edit with Premiere. So I'm doing all that stuff myself. So the watching a film is part of my TSN process. So I can just save a couple clips and then talk about it. And I look at it as it's no different than teaching players. It's just you're just going to a different medium. So I enjoy it. And yeah, tomorrow I'm going to interview. Matt Nichols will be podcast number 2, so we're going to tape that tomorrow and hopefully release that next week. And I'll make an announcement here. Tomorrow, I'm going to try this out. I've never done it, but I want to do I'm going to try a live stream tomorrow night, 7 p.m., and we're going to try to go like a pregame show. So for Rider fans, we'll start with the West, talk about the Riders games, all the kind of stuff I've talked about. So 7 p.m. local time. tune into like YouTube, Coach Lapo. I will have a live stream going tomorrow, and you can ask questions. I'll have a Q&A up, so you can ask questions as we go. I'm going to go through stats, going to go through some film, and go through and just make a couple of points about the West first, and then I'll do the East.
It's Coach Paul LaPolice on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline here on the all-new Sports Cage. Coach, let's go back to your time. Rider Nation, 2007 to 2009. What do you remember most about your time here?
Just the passion people had for the game. I love the fact that, good Lord, I remember when we won the Grey Cup in 07, and we went in the back of pickup trucks through the streets, and it was so cold. But there was fans everywhere. I remember in 2009 on the 13th man, we lose that game, and we arrived back to the stadium, and how many fans were there for us to greet us. And I can even remember, I think we upset in 07 BC. We got back to the airport, and I remember Kent saying to me, look, and all fans came to the airport. So we got off, we didn't charter it those days. So we got off the plane, and when we're in there, they had to have police escort to get us out of the place. Now no longer fans are allowed in the airport. We actually just go, we get right off the tarmac onto buses. So the fan engagement was amazing. The people there were very friendly and very nice. And so I just really enjoyed my time there for 3 seasons. It was fun. And certainly with the facilities they have now, it's just a great experience to coach at.
Have you been down into the meeting rooms and the facilities that are there for the players? Again, we only get to get a glimpse of it as Rider Nation, but how does that stack up against other teams in the CFL or even south of the border?
I would say, the top 2 in the Canadian Football League are the Riders and the Bombers. And it's going to compare to some smaller Division I colleges. It's, or 1AA scholarship schools in the U.S. But I think that, I was part of the build of the Bombers ones. I did get a tour of the Riders ones. I think what they did a very good job of, a little inside information, is they basically said, all right, we're going to leave this amount of square footage available, and we're going to go to a stadium company or a company that builds locker rooms in the U.S. And then they kind of subcontracted that out. So the Riders facility looks very much like major Division I football programs. The Bombers is beautiful, might be a little bit bigger, may have a little bit more meeting rooms and stuff, but that looks a little bit more like a traditional, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles the Riders facility does. It's you almost use in recruiting players at the college level. So, but they're both spectacular places.
It's Paul LaPolice joining us on the all-new Sports Cage. If you're watching at sportscage.com, you're listening on CKRM. He's got a brand new, just like Joe Rogan, he's in the podcast world now. He's ready to take on all comers. Coach's Podcast, Episode 1. I love how you were chatting with Hall of Famer Weston Dressler. You went through his social media, and Weston hasn't been on Twitter since 2018. And then you started asking some rapid fire questions, and you asked him who's the best football player that he played with. And he said Durant. Now you got a chance to coach Darian. We have him on the radio with us every Monday. It's called Double Talk with Darian Durant. Yep. 5:00. He comes on. He gives his perspective on football. He went into the Plaza of Honor. What made Darian so special that obviously it all paid off in winning the Grey Cup, but he was good for a lot of years?
I think he had a good understanding, what we were trying to do schematically. But I think one of the best things he did is he could create when things broke down. He really had a really good one. He was an accurate passer. He could throw the ball downfield well because he hit a bunch of downfield shots in my 2 years with him, and so he did that very well. But the other thing is he had such a strong lower body for a quarterback, so you couldn't really take him down. He would bounce off people. We could use him in the run game. We could do multiple things with him, and he was just you just couldn't bring him down, and that created off-schedule plays. So I thought, one, he was an accurate deep ball passer, but two, he really was good because he was very hard to tackle. He broke out of a bunch of sacks and created with his legs.
Off-schedule plays. I'm glad you used that terminology because this weekend here in Riderville, The Saskatchewan Roughriders have a quarterback in Trevor Harris who loves staying on schedule, likely up against a BC quarterback in Vernon Adams Jr. who doesn't mind going off schedule. As the offensive coach that you are, does one or the other drive you nuts?
Yeah, you don't have, obviously want to play guys who can use their legs and get out of stuff. You want the guys. It's, you can blitz, and if you don't slow down, those guys go to blitz and they blitz so fast and they come off the edge so quick. They either don't play contain or they go for a kill shot, and you can't got to bring the guy down. And the thing that Vernon can have success with, Saskatchewan plays a lot of zone coverage. That's why they got so many interceptions. If they play a lot of zone coverage, can he create with his legs? And I don't mean scramble for 30. I mean maneuver in the pocket and avoid so those zones eventually break down and receivers are open and he can throw the ball. That's going to be the challenge riders of not, it doesn't have to be that like he's going to run the ball for first downs. It's like he's not going to be able to you're not going to be able to contain him with 4 or 5 guys, and he's going to move around and find sooner or later zones break down. So they've got to be able to, one, get some pressure with 4 and 5 people, I think. The Riders do.
Coach, I'm not sure if you've ever been in the situation like we saw in BC. You start the season with one quarterback and you've built your game plan, you've gone through training camp, you've built all of that chemistry, and then the business of football happens, and then all of a sudden, VA goes down, but now you have a different quarterback that you're trying to install everything with. How hard is that on the we saw what that did to the team and on the field. How hard is that on a coaching staff?
Well, I think I've been through it a bunch of times with you go through it with injuries, and in the 19th season, went through Matt Nichols getting hurt, Chris Trevler getting hurt, Zach Collaros going in. I think what you have to do, your offense, when it goes in, even in training camp, because I do remember the years where people said, wow, Strevler went in the game, it didn't look like that different. You had a whole different offense for him. Well, I think you have to play to guys' strengths. Like, I was able to play to that guy's strengths, Chris Strevler, in training camp, and I had his package ready, and we practiced it. So everybody knew his package. It's a little bit different when BC went through, like, halfway through the season, this guy just showed up. So, I think it's a hard thing to go through, and don't forget Vernon was hurt when that happened. But watching Vernon, 2 weeks ago or last week, he just looked like he had a command of the deep ball. Justin McInnes was spectacular. That's where Vernon Adams wants to go to. I have a stat here. He's averaged 150 yards in the 2 Saskatchewan games. So the Riders better have a plan. And, Vernon just does such a good job getting the ball out of his hands. You watch him 2 weeks ago, he was spectacular. So it's going to be a big challenge. But for the BC Lions, it's a great problem to have, having 2 talented guys. But the team just really it looks like they are responding, or they're able to move the ball better with Vernon over the course of how long he played compared to Nathan.
Paul LaPolice is our guest on the all-new Sportscage, and, of course, streaming online through sportscage.com or our YouTube channel. Coach, I'm not going to ask you for an endorsement for Roland Milligan Jr. to be the most outstanding player, but feel free to chime in on your own if you like. Having said that, though, as an offensive coach that is game planning to play against the Roughriders, how much do you take into account where zero is and or may be on the field?
It's obviously important, but he's not the only one who's gotten takeaways. This team leads the CFL in takeaways. And the biggest thing they do is offensively, they're number 1 in the Canadian Football League in giveaways. They don't turn it over. A giveaway is an offensive. So you had better protect the football. For BC to win, they have to win the margin or make it even. They've averaged in their 2 losses 4 turnovers each time. Now, from a game planning as a coach, your whole week is talking to your quarterback about make great decisions with the football. If you can't see the picture, don't throw it. It's okay to check it down. Don't put yourself in a bad situation. It's got to be clean for you to make that throw. So many times when you're sitting in that meeting with the quarterbacks the next day after an interception or a couple of interceptions, one thing we always watched as a coaching staff is I always took my quarterbacks and watched all the interceptions that happened the previous week, just to prove to it's not great defense sometimes. Sometimes it's just a horrible decision by the quarterback, throwing it blind, making bad decisions with the football. So, less of where Roland Milligan is every play. It's more of, hey, let's make great decisions with the football. If it's not clean, don't throw it up. Especially because Milligan's such a player that, they don't play a lot of man coverage. There's years ago that I faced a couple really good man coverage players when I had Fantus and they wanted to put Fantus on him. Well, I would put Fantus in a situation where he went to the field. And now, like, I put a running back on where Brandon Browner was from, if you remember that name, from Calgary. Yeah. So the boundary corner, he would still stay on him. He would lock up on the tailback. Well, we're not going to throw to the tailback. We're going to throw to Andy Fantus over the other side of the field. So it's a little bit harder with Roland Milligan, but I think it's just make good decisions with the football is what BC has to do.
Do you think that William Stanback has underperformed for the BC Lions this year and we haven't seen his best football, and that he could be a major factor come Saturday if they can get the run game going?
That's a great question. All right, I've got two cool stats for you on that. And I noticed this a couple weeks ago. The reason the BC Lions went out and got William Stanback was because talking to their coaches last year, they were like, they'd rather be in second and long and second and medium than second and 1 to 2 to 3 last year, just because they didn't have a big back. They really struggled getting conversions on the easiest down and distance, get a conversion on second and 2 to 3. They didn't have that power back that they wanted. And so they go out and get William Stanback. So one area they have improved in, BC on second and 1 to 3 conversions, they're 88%. They're the best in the CFL. They're in the CFL after being 8th or 9th last year. So that has improved for them dramatically. But in 2 games against the Riders, this really good defensive line, he averages 2.5 yards. So I don't really expect that he's going to be much of a factor. They'll try to get some running game, but I think the ball's going to be in Vernon's hands, and that's how the game's got to be won.
Coach LaPolice, I'm somewhat surprised this season that Coach Mace and Coach Mueller don't have similar hairstyles to you right now, and the fact that they've both got hair being 13 offensive linemen deep. In saying that, how much do you think that Mark Mueller has had to adjust his offensive scheme this year to the players that are along that offensive line with so much turnover that they've faced all season long?
Yeah, I mean, you try to do things with this many offensive line injuries, whether it be getting the ball out of your hands quicker, doing everything. I think the biggest thing that had to happen for Mark Mueller was, the 2 quarterbacks. That's going to be the biggest thing. How do we play Shea Patterson and then Trevor Harris? Because, to be honest, Trevor Harris now, the ball comes out of his hands so quickly. The O-line, they have to do their things correctly, but you've got a quarterback who will see pictures and throw it quickly. So I think they're in good hands in that aspect. But, yeah, certainly I thought the O-line has played well this season with all the injuries they've had.
So Coach Paul LaPolice is with us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline here on the All-New Sportscage. You've coached a lot of good quarterbacks in the CFL. Did you see enough out of Shea Patterson in his starts when he was filling in for Trevor Harris, or whether it be in relief? Has he made the progressions in your mind that a quarterback that's 3-4 years into the league that you would need to see to be like, yeah, I can see more potential there, that there's still something left to achieve?
Sure, potential, but the problem is you never get to see these guys play. So, it's a very difficult scenario to go, where does that player go next? You're always trying, I remember talking to George Cortez years ago, a guy named Dan Lefevre who played in the league for a few years, number of teams. Well, I remember when George Cortez had him as a rookie, I remember telling him, we loved him. I tried to get him on the neg list, and this is years ago, 2012. And he's like, oh, yeah, I love him too. He's going to be good in about 4 years, so there is a long time before. And sometimes guys play too early, and sometimes guys don't get a chance to play. And it's just hard. Who's going to all of a sudden stand up and say, all right, we're going to give this guy a lot of money to become a starter? There's not that many opportunities out there. So he just needs to stay in the system and get more opportunities and keep growing. He's got the ability to use his legs, which you like. and he seems to make decisions and throw the ball quickly.
I promise I will not put you on the spot with this question, but I remember there was the Ottawa Redblacks did a terrific job of taking us behind the scene as fans. And in 2022, I recall you signing Jeremiah Masoli and the excitement there was for bringing him into the organization. So if you are evaluating your quarterback in this offseason in the Canadian Football League, I'm not going to make you pick someone that you want to start out with, but what do you look for as being the guy that can deliver for you in the short term and perhaps long term if it works out that way?
Well, I think it always goes from this. The first thing you want out of your quarterback is he's got to be a great decision maker, because as we sit here and talk about not throwing interceptions, not turning the ball over. And two, I think one of the second biggest things that I don't know if people understand is you got to process information quickly. It happens so fast at this level. So one of Trevor's strengths is the ball comes out of his hand immediately. Why? Because he's already seen the coverage. He already knows where to go with the football. So if you've got a guy who can make good decisions, he processes information quickly, and then three is accurate, you can win with that. You don't have to have the biggest arm. You don't have to have mobility. All right. But then I'm going to put right there. I love guys who can move. Like, if guys can use their legs, I always talk to the personnel department when I was a head coach or a coordinator. Listen, this guy over 4 years in college is negative yards rushing. That means he gets sacked a lot. We don't want guys either don't process to throw it or can't use their legs to get out of stuff. As young quarterbacks, when the picture isn't clean from, they need to use their legs. They tried somebody with, doesn't have to be total mobility, but there has to be some.
We still got Coach? Did he clip out?
Lost Coach.
We're chatting. Yeah, we lost Coach. We'll get him back. This is a great interview. We haven't never had Lapo on. This is great. This is 10 layers deep as far as analysis goes for football. We're chatting with Coach Paul LaPolice on the Western Pizza guest hotline here. We may have run into a few technical difficulties. I'm wondering where he is. He's down
in Ottawa. They live in Ottawa. His family lives in Ottawa. I know his son is a pretty good football player, but suffered a pretty bad injury earlier this year. So I was going to ask, and hopefully his son's on the mend. It sounds like everything was okay and falling into place, but you can just hear in his voice that next level of comprehension, right? That we as fans, okay, we can see a guy that is sprinting open. We may not know how it opened or what the scheme was to get him open. And I'm so curious because Justin McInnis all year long in BC has been schemed to be open. And it changed a little bit when Keon Hatcher came back into the lineup, but the Lions seem to have made that adjustment. And it wasn't as free-flowing with McInnis and Nathan Rourke as it seems to be with McInnis as it is with Vernon Adams Jr. So I'm curious if that's a byproduct of the way that the two of them have maybe formed a relationship, or if that's just the scheme, or if that's just the way that the cards have fallen and it just is a sheer coincidence. Don't know that I put it up on that category.
Well, when VA and McInnis are playing, they make it look easy. And the other thing, too, is we're chatting with Coach Paul LaPolice here, who's part of the TSN panel, and he's a podcaster. But if I'm the Edmonton Elk and I'm clearing house and I'm reimagining my coaching staff, what are the chances that this guy is not the offensive coordinator or head coach candidate for sure? If you're looking to be like, all right, we're going to turn this franchise around and get it going. Because if there's one thing he's been able to prove, guy knows offense. All right. Well, if we can't get him back, we'll take a break. It was day number 1 of Saskatchewan Roughrider practice. Dave was there, and Coach Corey Mace had words after practice. We'll get those to you in just a bit. If you'd like to be part of the show and you want to jump in, you can. The Capital Ford Lincoln text line, 306-936-6262. We'll be right back after this on the all-new Sportscage.
The all-new Sportscage is brought to you by Sherwood Co-op Liquor Stores. Now open in Harbor Landing and Rochdale Boulevard.
From the biggest topic of the day to a lighthearted query, if you've got an opinion, we want to hear it. The 620 CKRM Daily Poll is your chance to have your say. Because if no one knows what you think, how will anyone know you're right? Brought to you by Action Roofing. Proudly serving Regina and Saskatchewan for over 40 years. Call the roofing professionals at 306-545-4677. Let us know what you think. Head over to the 620 CKRM Daily Poll at 620ckrm.com.
When you shop at Sherwood Co-op, you're contributing to your community
while building equity and putting money back in your pocket.
Others may claim to be local, but Sherwood Co-op is truly local.
Rooted in your community for over 90 years.
They're a proud Saskatchewan company
who continue to support hundreds of community organizations each year.
Like the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at the Regina General Hospital and the Cancer Foundation of Saskatchewan.
We are members.
We are owners.
We are Sherwood Co-op.
The Grain Millers Harvest Showdown is set for October 30th to November 2nd in Yorkton. Included is the Ag Appreciation Evening with Quick Dick McDick, Commercial Grain Forage and Pedigreed Seed Show, and Awards Evening with comedian Howie Miller. And don't miss Thirsty Thursday featuring Bull Ruckus. Stop by the Agri Pavilion to check out FCC's Breeders' Alley, as well as the Futurity and Commercial Cattle Show and Sale. Don't miss the Mazer Group PBR Friday and Saturday with cabarets to follow. There's something for everyone at the Grain Millers Harvest Showdown. Visit YorktonExhibition.com for full schedule.
When planning a mini winter getaway, take a step back in time with the historic Grant Hall Hotel in Moose Jaw. Built in the 1920s, this luxurious hotel features classic designs, 58 styles of rooms, the most elegant meeting rooms, and a banquet hall. Spend the day exploring, then enjoy an extravagant, relaxing dining experience at the Grant Hall Dining Room and Burrowing Owl Lounge. They have gift cards too, perfect for stocking stuffers. The Grant Hall Hotel Moose Jaw, your vacation destination in a notorious little city with an amazing history.
The all-new Sportscage is live streaming from our Century Studios in downtown Regina. Watch now at sportscage.com. Be part of the show by texting 306-936-6262. 620 CKRM.
Saturday at Mosaic Stadium, the CFL West semifinal. Riders taking on the BC Lions. Countdown to kickoff will get rolling at 1:30. Rider Nation pregame show at 3:30 and kickoff at 4:30. Now, here's the thing. You know, Dave, in a lot of sports, so the playoffs roll around. It's time to jack up the prices. I know the Dodger and New York Yankee tickets, what they're getting for tonight's game is not what they charged during the regular season. Here's the thing. The prices have not gone up from the regular season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So all of the deals are still in effect. You can do the Me Plus 3, so you can grab 3 friends and save 20%. Family pack, 2 adults, 2 youth tickets. That's you right there in a nutshell. $99 plus tax. Here's me, and I'm jealous. This wasn't around when we were young and a little drunk, going to football games, going to Rider games, and being nuts. We had Section 28, which was great, but Pill Country is just, it's built, it's loud, it looks good. Pill Country tickets are $35 plus tax.
Wow.
And the playoff rally in Harvard Studio 620 will start at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon with Gaynor, the cheer team, pep band. Sean Bain Jr. and Jamarcus Hardrick are going to be signing autographs between 2 and 3. And the first 15,000 people through the gates at Mosaic Stadium will get the Believe Banner Bangers. You get free noisemakers. Oh, and there's $5 beer on the concourse until 30 minutes before kickoff.
And the weather is looking actually pretty good. It's going to be very similar to what it was last Saturday. So, put on a heavy jacket. You'll be all right.
Well, a few Pilsners in, you may lose that jacket. And especially, are you, now I know we have to go back a few years to your Weyburn days. Were you the paint a letter on your chest guy with you and a bunch of friends to go to a sporting event?
I can honestly say I have never partaken in that. There are
Me
people
neither.
that I know who have, but I have not.
I know. Yeah, because when you commit, you got to kind of commit to 4 quarters to do that.
Yeah.
Like you can't be 8 minutes into the first quarter going, guys, I'm cold. Can we put our shirts on? I want to wear my jacket.
Yeah.
It's really cold. It should be Saturday should be a great day for football. Remember back in the summer, amidst the almost 2-month losing streak, the thought of us having a home playoff game was really just a dream. And now it's here. Let's fill Mosaic. In the other semifinal, which will be played earlier in the day, Ottawa's going to take on Toronto. Ottawa did win their last game. Toronto seems to be peaking at the right time. I think a lot of us, although this happens, everybody automatically thinks the Argos are going to roll. I don't know, Dave. Have you seen anything out of Ottawa that makes you think that they can beat the way that the Argos are playing right now?
Ottawa is so banged up in the linebacking core and secondary that worries me. So if Toronto, and playing in Toronto is really, really hard, as I've learned, not just because you're in Toronto and the atmosphere and all that stuff, but also that field is a hard field to play on. And yeah, I get it. The Argos get to play on that field 10 times a year. That's it as well. So the advantage isn't huge, but a soccer turf grass field like they have at BMO is much different than a grass field that you would practice on, for example, because the sod is quite loose underneath, from what I understand. So the teams will be preparing. I had a great conversation with the Rider equipment crew before we went to Toronto this season, and so the players will actually probably have a couple of choices when it comes to footwear. They're likely going to go with a 7-stud long cleat, which is a lot different than the turf cleat that they would wear for much of the season. But also, it's not just a grass surface. If you're watching or paying attention closely, one of the end zones entirely turf and the other one is half turf. So
only in the CFL do you get it's mostly grass and a little bit of turf, and it separates right on the goal line. So if you're trying to dig in, if you're that team that's playing defense and you're trying to dig in and you have the wrong cleats on because you're mostly on grass, but now you're in the end zone, like it's such a bizarro situation. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, I believe you have enough money, either all one or all the other. But come on. All right, so it was day one of practice. Now, I know last week you said that because the weather had changed, there was a little bit of light snow, the DJ was bang on Foreigner, Cold as Ice. First question, was there music at practice today?
Yeah, definitely there was music at practice, but I can't remember what the name of the first song was.
Well, no, but anything you and I who are old and uncool would recognize. Because when it gets to be like the young, cool rap stuff, I'm like, I have no idea. Foreigner, Cold as Ice all day long. Journey, Def Leppard, you name it. I had Conway Twitty come on my Spotify playlist yesterday at the gym. Tight fitting jeans. And I'm like, how do you know? Just another banger. So outside of that, let's find out what Coach Mace had to say after practice today with Dave.
Day one of preparation for the West semifinal under your belt, Coach. However, Coach Mueller wasn't happy, definitely with some of the execution at one point during the workout. Are there any concerns of a letdown after the way the regular season had maybe ended against Calgary last week?
No, I think it was just we just had to get a little sense of urgency. That's it, and the guys responded well for the rest of the practice. So, playoff week, the expectation is a little bit higher. And, for a lot of these guys, we're still all new together. This is a new territory for us, but we just had to put a little fire, and I thought it worked well.
I know Trevor Harris last week talked about maintaining momentum heading into the postseason. Does this team have momentum?
Just it's not the way you wanted to finish, and not what we had, in mind. But certainly, we flushed it, and we're moving forward to this week. And everything, from a coaching standpoint and from a player standpoint, that's the focus now. So you flush and you keep pushing forward, and we're fortunate enough to be in the situation that we're in.
Everyone wants to be playing their best football at this time of year, Coach Mace. If you put last week's result aside, would you suggest that your team is playing their best football right now?
I think, last week's aside, then yes. I think that we've had a steady climb since the season shifted for us. We're excited. So we got to take another step. That's the reality. Things get heightened in the playoffs. And again, you want to mimic that and what we do every day, from meetings to what they're doing in the weight room to what they're doing outside of the building. The focus is narrow, and it is. We're always talking 1-0, and it has to be.
Lastly, I know the importance of ensuring that your approach to every game is consistent. Is that true with coaching? Do you need to stress the importance in your own mind of maintaining consistency as you head towards Saturday's game?
Oh, absolutely. Consistency in the messaging, consistency in how we get the game plan and how we elaborate it to the players, and how we organize the practice. So, absolutely, consistency across the board. Obviously things are a bit heightened, but you have to do everything that that puts you in the best position to win. So we got to stay consistent with that.
Here's one thing that'd make me feel a whole lot better. I'd much rather be facing a Nathan Rourke BC Lion playoff team than a VA, a Vernon Adams, who we haven't seen a lot of, coming in here with a little bit of swagger. So that worries me, because you know what? When he's playing and just even see that one game and he was able to connect with those receivers, and you talked about Justin McInnis always being open at the right time, and they can score and they can score fast. And the thing is, if they're scoring touchdowns, we need to match touchdown for touchdown. We can't be in the field goal business, because we have to take advantage of those red zone opportunities.
I think it's going to be interesting as far as the game plan goes with Vernon Adams Jr. And again, the off-schedule plays is what everybody worries about. But let's face it, Vernon Adams Jr., when he was healthy and operating the BC Lions offense, their average passing yardage was about 30 yards per game more than it was when Nathan Rourke came in. Now, I don't know what was or what wasn't clicking. There's a lot of people wondering if there's something going on behind the scenes or not, but Vernon Adams Jr., of course, he's had an MOP caliber season, although he hasn't been able to play in a lot of games, which is why he won't win the award. Having said that, defensively, I'm curious. The BC Lions were beat up pretty good by the Saskatchewan Roughriders when they were here. They didn't have a lot of answers for the Rider offense, because it looked like, to me, Trevor Harris had such a grasp on what they were going to present. It almost looked like he had been given a copy of their defensive playbook, because he knew where the blitzes were coming from. He got that football out quickly all the time. And again, they had the running attack going as well. So I think if the Riders present a balanced attack on offense, which is why Mark Mueller got a little emotional today at practice, as he was letting his offense know that he didn't believe their execution was at the level where it needed to be. So he let them know. They responded quite well. So it wasn't a situation where I think the turning point of the season came when Coach Mace pulled his team off the field to address them before that game against Calgary, and then they went back out. But I will say that he had his team focused and dialed in, and I know that there will be emphasis on balance and maintaining the football, because the best defense in football sometimes is offense.
I thought the turning point in the season is when we had Charleston Hughes on for an interview on the Sportscage, because then they went 4-0 after that. And
he would agree with that.
Exactly. He said, let Mace know that he was the guy responsible for that winning streak. So from the lineup on Saturday, Milligan obviously back in on defense, and we're all the four starters that were held out of the game on Saturday back in. We're talking Harris, we're talking Ouellette, we're talking Amelis, and then who was the other one that did not?
Keyshawn Johnson didn't play.
Keyshawn Johnson. The other Keyshawn Johnson, all as your eyes and ears at Rider practice for Rider Nation, they were all back in today.
Yeah, all back in and participating. Anthony Lanier as well was back out on the football field as well today. So again, it looks like the precaution paid off. It didn't pay off in the result that Rider Nation wanted against Calgary, because there was a lot of people that wanted to put the boots to the Stampeders, kick them while they're down kind of thing. But having said that, even though the result didn't come, the idea of getting away from the football game healthy so you can move forward into the playoffs, that was executed flawlessly, fortunately for the Riders.
Am I the only one that's not shocked that Dave Dickinson will be back as coach and GM of the Stamps next year?
No, I think that
all the problems that you had, I don't think he's it. He's not the problem. He wasn't the guy. He wasn't dropping passes. He wasn't overthrowing receivers.
No, I am curious. My theory is that, again, as the general manager, though, you're responsible for the guy that is throwing the ball wide and the guys that were dropping passes. So I think it's a short leash that he is on. He gets one more year to kind of turn it around, see what happens in the offseason, and go from there. But I think what might happen is I think that his brother may come down and be the special teams coordinator, and Mark Killam, who's been the special teams coordinator since 2009 or something like that, I think that he's probably exploring other opportunities. Not because he's done a bad job. He was going to be the heir apparent, right, in the head coaching role. And so if Dave ever decided that he was moving upstairs, Mark, it sounded like he was the next succession on that John Huffnagel tree, that he would take over the head coaching role. So now there might be a possibility for him to head up the road and maybe make an impression in Edmonton. Again, very, very smart football coach out of the Lethbridge area originally. So I will be curious to see if that's a domino that may fall here.
I think the one thing that the Stamps did, the smart thing, is Jay McNeil, decisive. Like yesterday being Monday, if the season wrapped up on late Saturday, he came out and said, no, Dave Dickinson is our guy. There was no waiting. There was no time for any rumor mill or anything to kind of build. What are they going to do? And, oh, no, they're not having their presser until Friday. And then the rumor's going to be out there. It was like Jay McNeil came out and said, Dave Dickinson is our guy in 2025. He's going to be the coach. He's going to be the general manager. And to me, I'm like, you have one bad season where you miss the playoffs in 20 years. I think that should buy you enough latitude to have another crack at this. I don't think you're knee-jerking this because the resume is there. Yeah, it hasn't been. And maybe, and some of that is, yeah, they find a lot of good talent, but then when they hit free agency, they just don't want to pay. And maybe they decide to change that philosophy this offseason. If there are some free agents, they're going to keep them. Or because normally, and they're not big spenders either, maybe this year they say, okay, wait a minute, we're going to make a splash. We're going to go after those guys.
One of the defining statements I think made with the Saskatchewan Roughriders this year was in free agency, right? Remember how active the Riders were in free agency. Jamarcus Hardrick, AJ Ouellette, Adam Auclair. Then you got Malik Carney, then you add in Jameer Thurman, right? Very active. And Jeremy O'Day was asked about it, right? The vice president of football operations and the general manager. And he said, you know what? I'd love not to be this active in free agency because that means that we've got guys on our roster that we believe in and believe that we can move forward with. But again, this year, he went out of his way to make sure that he stocked the shelf so that head coach Corey Mace could be successful. And all those moves, right? Look at all those moves, including Adam Auclair, by the way, who was back on the practice field today after missing the last couple of games with a knee injury. They've all paid off. All character guys that have really gone ahead and turned the culture along with Coach Mace in that Rider locker room.
All right, we're running long here. We got to take a break. If you want to go to the game on Saturday on the all-new Sportscage, grab your phone. This is easy. Text the word Riders with an S to 306-936-6262. We'll set you up with a free pair of tickets to check out the Riders and the Lions in the CFL semifinal. The all-new Sportscage continues next on 620 CKRM and on our stream at sportscage.com.
I hate when my power's out. It doesn't matter if it's a storm, accident, or planned outage. Losing power is frustrating. But you can keep your lights on with a Generac standby generator from Croft Electric. Even when your neighbors are sitting in the dark, a Generac standby generator can power your home. Don't let power outages ruin your day. Get your home a Generac standby generator from Croft Electric. Financing now available. CroftElectric.com.
This wasn't an animal, and it wasn't human either. Take that!
Sometimes you need to work outside in the cold. Maybe not battling a snow beast, but regular work. Prairieland Rental has heaters, generators, and all the things you need when you work outside. You can even rent skid steers to move snow and deal directly with the owner.
Take that and that!
Prairieland Rental, 600 Albert Street, prairielandrental.com.
Your Co-op Grow team are your local experts because we live here too. Our agronomic specialists stay up to date with the latest research and technology to help support your entire farm operation. Talk to our team for advice tailored to your farm's needs. We have recommendations to help you optimize your crop yield and quality while enhancing the health of your land. Co-op, we're all growing together. Here for your farm, here for your family. Learn more at coop.crs/farm.
Hello there, this is George Leith, Managing Partner at Harvard Media. I'm proud to announce that SaskToday.ca is now under local Saskatchewan ownership. SaskToday's team of local journalists are on the ground in communities across the province. We focus on local topics that matter to you: community news, agriculture, business commentary, local sports in our all-new Sportscage, and more. Visit and bookmark SaskToday.ca and sign up for our daily news digest. SaskToday.ca, from Harvard Media, everywhere.
Full bore? What does that even mean? Like a full animal? I guess it's better than a half bore, especially if you're the boar. Or is it a full bore like every team's meeting?
What's never a bore is driving on slick Saskatchewan winter roads. At least your local Cooper tire dealer carries Cooper Evolution winter tires. Cooper Evolution winter tires provide exceptional grip and traction in the snow and ice. See your local Cooper tire dealer for Cooper Evolution winter tires.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Connect with the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262.
A couple things. One surprises me, one doesn't surprise me. The way that the provincial election played out yesterday. Did you vote, Dave? Were you able to get to the polls, and were you mobbed by fellow voters exercising their democratic right, going, "That's Dave Thomas, voice of the Riders"?
No, that didn't happen. But I did take my son, my oldest son, who was eligible to vote for the first time. So that was cool. They had a little thing set up where you could go ahead and take a picture with a background and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Now, did you influence his decision, or did you let him decide on his own?
Did I influence his decision to go and vote, or his influence his decision who to vote for?
Exactly. Well, who to vote for? Trust me. Hey, I remember growing up. Hey, you always knew who your parents were supporting politically. Maybe you didn't mention it to anybody else, but you knew, who was good and who was a crook. Okay. In their minds. Yeah, in their minds.
No, he made up his own mind. He's a smart young man.
Oh, did he? And now that the election's over, no one wants to see your political party signs up in your front yard in December or January. Take them down.
I think there was a law or something they had to come down by X point or something. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Here's the thing. Your candidate either won or lost. There's no middle ground probably. It was either one or the other. So just be responsible and take her down. Because some people have the subtle signs, but then there's some people, the giant ones with the faces on it. Like, that's a big political commitment. When you're putting like that quadruple sign with somebody's face in your front yard, like, that's a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Wholeheartedly.
Are you as surprised as I am that the LA Dodgers are up 3-0 on the New York Yankees and they're making it look easy in the World Series? Like, Aaron Judge is some no-name that can't buy a single because his postseason luck is just not there. Man, the Dodgers look good.
See, I can believe that the Dodgers won at home. I wasn't surprised to see them win the first two. I didn't think they were going to win game 3. And how about Shohei Ohtani? What an athlete, playing with one shoulder, right? He separated the other shoulder in game 2, and he's still going. Like, I don't know how you swing a bat, but
that looked painful. When he slid into second there and he got up, and I'm like, that looks painful. Like with the ribs or any of those stomach muscles, like any kind of movement is, and if you've ever had bruised ribs, cracked ribs, anything, any movement is pain. Swinging a bat, throwing, getting run into, sliding for bases. Man, game 4 tonight. Let's see. You've got Luis Gil going for the Yankees. And is tonight like the Dodgers mix and match bullpen session, starting with Jack Flaherty and then every other pitcher that they have in a Dodger uniform, basically?
Basically, yeah. They're calling it a bullpen night. In the World Series, it's a bullpen night. Like, back in the day, right? Like, go through the Jays World Series runs and look at, like, the starting pitching that they had back then. Like, David Wells, wasn't he sent and banished to the bullpen back then? One of the best starters in baseball. Like, wow.
The story of the World Series is Canadian Freddie Freeman. Dude has been on fire for the Dodgers. He's hitting home runs. He's just Mr. Everything. A little later on in the show, we've got some audio, and Freddie talks about why he plays for Team Canada and why that's important to him and why he's doing this now, even to the equipment that he wears. It's a pretty neat interview, but it's funny. Last night he gets up there, and then next thing you know, and it's to the point now, if you're the Yankees, do you just pitch around him and intentionally walk him? Because the guy is hitting everything out. You put it anywhere near the middle of the plate and it's gone. So would you not pitch around him?
Yes. Yes, you would think in the but see, everything is analytics in baseball now, right? So there's some guy with a big calculator in a room in the back of the bullpen that's going ahead and saying, okay, statistically, he isn't going to hit this, right? But I think if you're playing the feel, which I think is probably a lot smarter, and Blue Jays fans will know what I'm talking about when we had Jose Barrios lifted from the game in Minneapolis, that sometimes you just got to go with the feel and say the heck with the numbers. And to me, if Freddie Freeman is hitting him everywhere like he is, I'm not pitching him. And I may not intentionally walk him, but I'm definitely not giving him anything between the knees and the belt. You know what I mean?
No, but it's funny. But even analytics, like last night, and the Dodgers were up. Did you see when they were bunting? Like, when do you see a bunting scenario in the World Series? You just don't. That's small ball. Like, that's what you teach the kids. Like, that's the basics and the fundamentals. And there's kind of like, all right, and we're gonna play and the bunt, and then they got the squeeze at home, and you're like, all right. I think that the Dodgers are pot committed, whatever it's going to take to win this World Series. And it's not that there's not some Yankees that are playing their heart out, but it just seems like the Dodgers, from the top of the lineup to the bottom, everybody's in no matter what it takes to bring this thing back home to Chavez Ravine and some of the worst traffic you will ever be in North America. When you're just a sucker and you're like, let's go to Disneyland for a couple of days. This will be great. We'll fly into LAX and rent a car. And then we're going to try and drive to Anaheim. And it's 4 hours later, and you're still no further along than you are. And then when you eventually drive past where the what are they? The California Angels now, the Anaheim Angels, what are they called? And you're like, wow, there's nobody here, and there's no traffic around this baseball stadium. Mm-hmm. And then when you see where the Ducks play, first pitch tonight, World Series Game 4. They could be hoisting it in the Bronx. The World Series trophy goes at 6:08 tonight. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report with Benny Walchuk. It was an interesting past week to 10 days for the Yorkton Terriers. We'll get Benny's take on what's happening in the SJ, and he's on the road with the Millionaires on his way to Nipawin for a call tonight. Stay close. This is the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
Listen weekdays at noon for Saskag Today on 620 CKRM with your host Ryan Young along with Doug Falconer and Kevin Hirsch, offering the most extensive agricultural news coverage with precision weather meteorologists. In an industry that moves fast, stay updated with the latest, most reliable information in ag news, prices and trends, all in one place. Available anytime at saskagtoday.com. Saskag Today, your trusted source for all things agriculture on 620 CKRM.
Hey Rider Nation, this is Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's the playoffs. The games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca, and you can get in on the massive jackpots. You can even score quickly with the early bird prize. This week, it's 2 tickets to the Cardinals and Seahawks game in Phoenix, including flights and hotels, but you have to buy before Thursday at 5 p.m. Get your tickets at riders5050.ca, and go Riders!
License number LR240102. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when Uh-oh.
There are some things that can get spoiled. A sunny day, maybe.
Aw, and no umbrella or anything.
And then there's Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer, where they have all the top-of-the-line smartphones with all the latest features. With such a wide selection and so many great plans, nothing can spoil it.
Yay, rain!
Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer in Fort Capel. EchoSound.ca.
Welcome, one and all, to the greatest auto sale at Capital GMC. Prepare to be amazed by our weekly Ringmaster specials. Early year-end clearance prices that can be found nowhere else in the world. Gaze at the amazing cash for clunkers. Get a minimum $3,000 for your trade, guaranteed. Bring the entire family for food, games, and your shot at winning thousands in spectacular prizes. Hurry, hurry, hurry. It's the greatest auto sale at Capital GMC.
Hello there, this is George Leith, Managing Partner at Harvard Media. I'm proud to announce that SaskToday.ca is now under local Saskatchewan ownership. Sask Today's team of local journalists are on the ground in communities across the province. We focus on local topics that matter to you: community news, agriculture, business commentary, local sports in our all-new Sportscage, and more. Visit and bookmark SaskToday.ca and sign up for our daily news digest. SaskToday.ca, from Harvard Media, everywhere.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. Sunshine and 6 degrees in Regina. I'm Andrew Dawson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News for Sherwood Co-op, proud supporter of our community with over 500 donations to local charities and nonprofits annually, and by Mercedes-Benz Regina for those who can. Mercedes-Benz-Regina.ca. The RCMP continuing to look into that school bus crash near Tisdale yesterday. A school bus with 27 students on it and an adult driver crashed about 22 kilometers southwest of Tisdale yesterday afternoon. 26 of the students were taken to hospital, with one being transported by Stars Air Ambulance. The adult driver of the bus had serious injuries, as well as 6 of the students, who range in age between 14 and 17. The RCMP have not said if any other vehicles were involved or how the bus ended up in the ditch in the first place. The RCMP arresting 2 of 4 suspects from a robbery last night in Whitewood. Someone parked outside of a business was pepper sprayed and then forced from their vehicle, and that vehicle hit the victim as it drove away. The victim was taken to hospital. They're expected to be okay. Police found the car on the Cowessess First Nation, but when police tried to stop it, it sped away. It stopped a short time later, and all 4 suspects inside took off on foot. Using a police dog and a drone, police were able to get 2 of the suspects, but 2 others in the car managed to get away. No charges were laid so far against the 2 that were caught, and police are continuing to look for the suspect that stole the car and their accomplice. The suspect is described as approximately 25 to 30 years old, 6 feet tall, last seen wearing a white or gray hoodie and sweatpants. We have a photo of him sent to us by the RCMP at 620ckrm.com. Now more of 620 CKRM's continuing coverage of Sask Votes 2024. Premier Scott Moe says he's heard the message that voters sent to him in the election last night. The Sask Party winning its 5th straight majority, but with a significantly reduced size of caucus. Moe says his government will be one that serves everyone in Saskatchewan.
All of us in government, and it starts with myself. We're going to take a little bit of time. We're going to reflect on the message that was sent here this evening, to reflect on what exactly that means. And you have my word that we are going to do that. And we will strive to earn back your support.
NDP leader Carla Beck disappointed that her party wasn't able to break through for the first time since 2003, but she also believes this was a clear message to the Sask Party.
Tens of thousands of Saskatchewan people have sent you a message that they want better for their province. And we'll be there to hold you accountable every step of the way.
The Sask Party dominating rural Saskatchewan, but shut out entirely in Regina, nearly wiped out of Saskatoon. You can read more about last night's results as part of Sask Votes 2024 at 620ckrm.com and sasktoday.ca. That's 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com.
The luxury of Mercedes-Benz has never been more within reach with the fall demo event at Mercedes-Benz Regina. Save up to $32,000 on select models like the luxurious EQE 350. Get the premium performance and elegance Mercedes-Benz is known for, but with unmatched value when you choose certified pre-owned. Take advantage of the opportunity to experience the Mercedes-Benz you've always dreamed of, without compromise. Book your test drive at Mercedes-Benz Regina.
What type of vehicle should you use for a fall hayride?
I bet you're going to be punny.
An automobile?
Ugh. Whatever type of vehicle you drive, fuel up at Sherwood Co-op gas bars.
As a member, fueling up means
sharing in the equity.
Buy a car wash or some snacks from the C-store.
It's like putting money in the bank.
You better believe it.
Sherwood Co-op gas bars.
We are members.
We are owners.
We are Sherwood Co-op.
And it's time now for a look at 620 CKRM Precision Weather. It's for Linex Regina Serious Protection, Killer Looks, 1865 McCarra Street. And for Wolf Industries, your truck repair specialists in Grenfell, servicing trucks of all sizes, SGI accredited. Looks like a mainly clear night ahead. Northwest wind 15. It will ease off to being pretty light overnight, but cool with a low of minus 10. Mostly sunny tomorrow, southwest wind 20 and a high of 6. Thursday, Halloween, partly sunny, southeast wind 30 and a high of 9. Looks like about freezing or just above freezing for the trick-or-treaters Thursday night. Mostly sunny Friday, high of 7. And game day Saturday at Mosaic, mostly sunny and a high of 7 degrees. Right now in Moose Jaw, it's partly cloudy. There's a northwest wind 17. It's 6 degrees. And in Regina, partly cloudy, north wind 21. It's also 6 degrees. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to the daily newsletter at sastoday.ca.
Whether Smokey's after you or not, when you're on the road in your big rig, you're in a hurry to get to where you're going, and you need a part shop you can trust. Wolf Industries is the premium choice. They're your family-run truck mechanic shop with a full line of parts for big semis, with certified AC technicians for the hot summer. Stop in at their Grenfell location for all the parts and repairs you need. They're SGI accredited for safety inspections and have 24-hour emergency call-out. Wolf Industries, the best for your truck. 10-4.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sports Cage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262. The all-new Sports Cage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
We started the show today chatting with former Rider assistant coach and Grey Cup champion Paul LaPolice. If you missed any part of that conversation, go back and check out the podcast at sportscage.com. We did get clipped at the end, and he sent me a text. He's like, sorry, I was not kidnapped. I apologize to everybody. But Lapo wanted to know, he told us he's doing a live stream tomorrow night with Matt Nichols, and they're going to break down the CFL playoffs, and they're going to go team by team by team. And you can find his YouTube page, and they're going to do that. And also Coach Lapo has a brand new podcast out. It's called The Coaches Podcast. He's done one episode, and he interviews Weston Dressler, who is now a CFL Hall of Famer and a Rider legend. And one of the things he asked, he's like, well, what do you miss about being, not only in Canada and Saskatchewan? And one of the things that Weston says he misses the most is, nibs, like the licorice? Apparently down in the States, you can't get the long version of nibs. You can only get the short version. He really enjoys. But he said his mother-in-law, when they come down, married a girl from Regina, 4 kids, under 6, by the way. And that was funny at the Hall of Fame ceremony. You could see, try to get all the kids together to just chaos. Yeah. The pictures. And if you haven't checked out the podcast, it's pretty good. He goes pretty deep with Weston, who is now in medical device sales. He sells knee and hip stuff. Dave, if you're in need of
knee or hip stuff, I know where to go.
Can set you up. But then Barney also said too that Neil Hughes also does that. He sells medical equipment.
Okay. Who knew? Barney did.
So in the medical world, like, you're selling it to the doctor, not to the patient, right? Like, I mean, the dog, like that's the thing to be like. So you'd be like, you're on the iPad, you're ordering, and be like, yeah, I need like 25 hips, 13 knees, and 4 right elbows. Like, is that how it?
My assumption is it's not out of the trunk of a car. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Healthcare has changed, Dave. That was one of the election promises I would have made if I would have been running, scrapping the PST, free winter tires, and free hips for everybody that needs it that's over 55. Right?
There you go.
It's Maz here along with Voice of the Riders, Dave Thomas filling in for Barty doing the all-new Sportscage today. All right, let's do this. Let's switch gears. We're leaving the football field, and it's time to take things on the ice with the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report.
Time now for the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report on the all-new Sportscage. The SJHL report is brought to you by Southie Mainline, the Mainline Automotive Group's newest king of trucks. Southie Mainline, just 30 minutes north of Regina. Worth the drive, every time, guaranteed.
Is Benny on the bus, or has Benny landed in Nipawin yet? Benny, where are you? Are you rolling, or are you stationary?
We are rolling still, in between Tisdale and Nipawin right now. We're about 20 minutes out from our destination.
Wow,
right,
so Benny is
three
on the road, going to be calling the Melville Millionaires and the Nipawin Hawks tonight. So is everybody sleeping right now?
Pretty much. A lot of music, a lot of headphones in the ears. I'm not sure what kind of music they're listening to, but for me, it'd be probably country music. Maybe a little Conway Twitty. I was listening to a little bit earlier, a little bit of Conway Twitty maybe. But, I'm not. I even though I'm a little bit younger than you guys, not a whole lot younger, but a little bit younger, I'm not into that rap stuff either. So.
Yeah, I bet you there's no kids on that bus listening to Tight Fitting Jeans by Conway Twitty. And and then the next song that came on the playlist last night while I was pumping iron, Dance Little Jean by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and I haven't heard that song. Now, Dave, that's a Saskatchewan, and Benny, that's a Saskatchewan wedding staple. That growing up, every wedding dance had the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band's Dance Little Jean come on somewhere during the night for the bride and groom.
Yeah.
Benny, you got a big game to call tonight, man. Let's talk a little bit about the Viterra division. Weyburn, Melville, Yorkton, all within 3 points of one another, and that includes Yorkton being deducted those wins early on. So every point obviously matters. How do you see this division working right now as you get set, like I say, for a game up in Nipawin tonight with the Millionaires?
Yeah, it's been very, very competitive. It started last year when all three teams, especially Yorkton and Melville, kind of took a little bit of stride. Weyburn took a little bit of strides forward last year, so it's a division that we thought would be competitive, maybe not as competitive as it is right now, but it's been great to see. I know Weyburn had a little bit of a slow start going 0-4, but they've rattled off. They've got points in 10 straight games to take over the division lead right now. Melville's been right at the top pretty much the whole season long, had a couple lapses here and there. Then, of course, you said Yorkton losing basically lost 6 games, but lost 3 wins. So they lost 6 points in the standings, and just like that, they go on a road trip and take 3 of 4 to creep their way back up to the thick of things in the middle of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League standings. So it's very entertaining. I know with the new with changes to the schedule, each team in division will play 8 times instead of 6 times. So just that much more importance of games here going forward, and it's always great when these divisional rivals will meet.
All right, it's Benny Walchuk, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report for Southie Mainline Chrysler, the king of trucks. There's no free spots on the bingo card, but the Nipawin Hawks are 2-10 on the season so far. What hasn't gone right for them this year to be so bad so early in this season?
Yeah, it's last year they kind of got a little bit older and they tried to go for it a little bit to the playoffs, and it just didn't work out. So they kind of left maybe the cupboards a little bit more emptier than they would have thought, and maybe goaltending wise, I know they had one returning goaltender in Tyson Endo, who's now not with the team. He got traded out to BC, the KIJHL. So they had 2 young netminders in between the pipes, and to win in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, you have to be good defensively and have good goaltending, and they just haven't had that gone so far here this early on this season. And of course, you have a young team. You have some growing pains, and you have guys that you expected to maybe take the next step last year that were youngsters that haven't quite yet. So it's a tough start here right now for the Nipawin Hawks, but it's still early in the season. But it's getting to here. We're getting into the November, into December, so maybe it's not as early as you think. But it's time for the Nipawin Hawks if they want to kind of try to chip their way back up to the standings, is to get some hay here and meet some hay very quickly here before the season runs out before Christmas time.
Benny Walchuk, the voice of the SJHL on GX94 Radio, joining us for the SJHL report today. And Benny, you mentioned goaltending, and it's funny the trickle-down effect every once in a while, right? So the NHL signs a guy, then you got to move a guy down to the the American Hockey League, then somebody gets bumped somewhere. So the shuffle is on. I know the Saskatoon Blades made a couple of trades, acquiring a goaltender and then dealing a goaltender today. The Weyburn Red Wings goaltending looks like it's outstanding and not going to change, but the Flin Flon Bombers tried to address that with a move that they made yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Matthew Kiefer, of course, he played some time with the Regina Pats, played in the AJHL. He's been acquired by the Flin Flon Bombers, and his rights, actually, CJHL rights with Canmore, so that's why the trade was completed. And that kind of maybe makes the crease there in Flin Flon a little crowded. They had Kenneth Marquardt, who's a Regina product, in between the pipes, and I thought he had an incredible year and part of that team last year. Maybe got off to a little bit start. And then they have Massimo Urbani, a kid out of BC that's had a great start to his young season. So it's one of those things that Flin Flon hasn't got the start they were looking for, that they've expected the last 5 or 6 years. They've been in 5 of the last 6 league finals. So it's not the start Mike Reagan was looking for. So maybe he's looking for a veteran presence in between the pipes. And sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. It always depends about the defensive structure around you as well, not sure just the goaltender. But Kyle Kelsey, of course, he came back from the Western Hockey League. He's a member of the Estevan Bruins now. I know Malville just got Luke Brunnan, who is a youngster from Warman, back from the Portland Winterhawks as well. So it's like you said, it's a trickle-down effect. Teams here early this season, despite having some great records, they're still trying to find that guy. Unfortunately, Malville lost their 20-year-old netminder to Loic Morin to a knee injury that's going to be long-term. So getting Luke Brunin back from the Western Hockey League made came at the right time. But goaltending in junior hockey is so important, and all these teams are looking for that find that right guy that can take them to the promised land. And sometimes it's a combination of one or two guys that can get that job done.
There's 3 games in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League tonight. The Larange Ice Wolves are in Humboldt, take on the Broncos. Melville is at Nipawin. That's where Benny's going to be. Kindersley is at Notre Dame. Kindersley's a nice surprise this year. Now, I remember doing some junior hockey games, and the players always knew when there was scouts in the building. Is that still the same, Benny? And the scouts that are coming out these days, who are some of the players that are catching the eyes of some of the guys walking around? They always had a coffee in hand, and a lot of them always had a piece of, I don't know if it's changed to iPhones and iPads now, they always had a piece of paper and a pen, and that lineup card looked like it had been put through the ringer on both sides when the scouts were up in the stands, usually huddled together in a group, talking amongst themselves. Who are some of the guys that are catching attention in the this 2024, soon to be 2025 version of the SJHL?
Yeah, those are, the old school guys that don't have the iPads, and they got about 19,000 papers stacked on their clipboard, and they can't find who it is. But there's a few guys. Of course, locally here with the Millionaires, you got Caden Drury's leading the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League in scoring with 25 points so far in the opening 13. He's a guy that's 20 years old, trying to get that maybe that scholarship down south to the NCAA. So that's the guy they're watching, and then maybe Jack is a kid out of Kindersley. He's already committed to Colorado College NCAA Division I, so he plays with Kindersley, and he's been a good surprise. He's one of the top scoring rookies in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey. Those are a couple of guys to keep an eye on. Of course, I know with the Yorkton Terriers, Darren NYA's had a good start to the season. Their captain had a 4-goal game at his opening night, so that's a good start. And of course, right now I know the Western Canadian Showcase, which is going to be an amalgamation between the AJHL or the SJHL and the Manitoba Junior Hockey League will take place next week. So there's some guys that will be coaching Canada West for the World Junior A Challenge that will be in a rinks here in the next week or so, trying to find those 19 and under born players to invite to the camp next week, and then ultimately trying to make the Team Canada West for the World Junior A Challenge. So it's one of those things. I think players nowadays with social media and their advisors and everything like that have an idea when some guys are going to be in the building. So pressure, hopefully, it's not too much on them. But I think a little bit more. You can find out what the guys are with their black coats and their maybe the slick back hair or whatever they got. So they're going to be watching games in the rinks.
Benny, I've got 2 big questions still to go for you on the SJHL report here on the all-new Sportscage. Of course, if you miss any of the conversation, check out the podcast. You mentioned surprise. Maz mentioned surprise. He mentioned the Kindersley Clippers perhaps being a surprise. But to me, is there anything more surprising than the parity in the league right now? Essentially, there's 4 points that separate the top 7 teams in the league right now. So is there a team that jumps out as a surprise or anyone that's amongst that group when you look at it right now, albeit early in the season?
Yeah, that was one of my points I was going to mention, the parity 1 through 7. But yeah, I think Kindersley is a good surprise. They've Clayton Jardines in his second year since coming back from the Alberta Junior Hockey League, and he's put together a pretty good roster. Maybe guys that maybe people don't know about. I know Dawson Carroll's a guy that's a 20-year-old, a journeyman guy in the SJHL. He had 4 goals the other night. He's up to 9 goals as well. Maybe Battleford's as well. I know Battleford's with Braden Komosko moving over to his hometown in Humboldt after 5 successful seasons in Battleford's. Maybe they thought they would take a step back, but with their they had an interim coach, Noah Lamb, for a couple of weeks, and then Martin Smith, of course, one of their leading scorers in their franchise history, stepped in, and they're just standing pace, and they're being very, very well. And maybe disappointing surprises, Flin Flon Bombers. They thought they'd probably not take a huge step back like they have been, maybe a little step back from the run they had last year to the league final. So those are probably a few teams that stand out, and maybe Yorkton Terriers as well. I know Yorkton took maybe a bigger jump than people thought. I know right now they would have an 11-4 record despite their if they would kept their games that weren't forfeiture in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League standings. So it's just great. It's nice to see. I know where this is kind of a 2 versus 12 matchup right here tonight, but this is always a tough building to play here in Nipawin, and it's never an easy night in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League with the travel and the amount of games. I know last week we were on a 4-games and 5-night road trip through Flin Flon, Laurent, and Kindersley, so it's a lot of traveling and a lot of time on the bus here. Weather's been nice right now, but it gets into the cool weather when you get to see the middle of the season. So teams trying to make some hay here early on, but yeah, it's been great to be an SJHL fan.
Where's the post-game meal? Do you guys still use the Venice House in Nipawin or no?
No, it's going to be actually the spot at the Nipawin Evergreen Center in there in the curling rink. So
right across, yeah.
Yeah, right across there at the curling rink. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be chicken Caesar wraps. So I'm looking forward to it. I got my body accustomed to in the summer of not eating too late in the day, and now I have to get my body accustomed to eating a little bit after the game and changing up the diet a little bit. But that's why we go to the gym, listen to Conway Twitty to eat those post-game meals after big 2 points.
Well, hey, there's a big pike festival that's on up in Nipawin, and of course they've got the Premier's Walleye Cup, so there's good fish to be had up there too, just so you know.
I know. I'm a big fisherman in the summertime as well, so I've got out here once or twice to come to Tobin Lake here to fish, but I'd like to get out here a little bit more often.
Well, I've lost a lot of hooks there, so if you find one, it's probably mine.
All right. Benny, have a good call tonight. That's Benny Walchuk. He's going to be calling the game on GX94, our sister station in Yorkton, Melville Millionaires, and the Nipawin Hawks. That is the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League Report, brought to you by Southie Mainline Chrysler. They're the king of trucks. You can check them out. You can just go to our website at sportscage.com. All right, it's time to take a break. Did we tell you we have free Rider tickets to give away for the big game on Saturday at Mosaic? The West semifinal, Riders and Lions. Kickoff will go at 4:30, and the tickets are free. All you need to do is fire off a text, the word Riders with an S, to 306-936-6262. When we come back on the all-new Sports Cage, there's panic in Oilerville. Connor McDavid, hurt last night, flies home to see doctors in Edmonton, doesn't even continue on in the road trip. We'll dive into that next. It's the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
The all-new Sports Cage is brought to you by Bronco Plumbing and Heating, where professional service is guaranteed. They'll treat you right. 781-2090.
When it comes to duct cleaning, call Bronco Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They'll clean out the dust and debris that builds up over the summer. When you need protection, they offer a monthly plan for homeowners to get regular service done on their AC and furnace, as well as plumbing. And when it comes to furnace servicing, it's never too early to get that done too. Bronco will service your furnace and have you ready to go before winter hits. Consider it today, so you can rest easy tomorrow. Learn more at broncoplumbing.com.
Tiny toppings and cardboard-flavored carbs are not what you get when you order from Western Pizza. But they haven't just perfected pizza. No, my friend, add Caesar salad to that list, along with satisfying garlic toast, baked lasagna, crispy chicken wings, and every other item on their extensive menu. Western Pizza makes food for hungry people. So if you're only kinda sorta hungry, you should invite more people. Western Pizza, big on toppings, big on taste.
Winter brings tougher driving weather, and that means it's time to winter up those tires on your vehicle. Regina Motor Products has got an offer that will make your ride safer and your wallet happier. Before you hit the snowy open road, get your tires swapped for winter with rebates as high as $120 off a full set of winter tires. You don't want to wait. Book now and be ready for all that cold stuff. Visit rmpchevrolet.com.
Regina Pats hockey is back and that net is wide open to renew your plates. When you take that big slap shot, do it online with Dusick and Barlow. Request a quote for anything you need. It's a true breakaway, and as easy as it is for the Pats to score that winning goal. When it comes to online plate renewal, there's no high sticking involved, just the most valuable players in the game. Your local Regina insurance brokers, Dusick and Barlow. Local owners, local business, saskinsurance.com.
The all-new Sports Cage. Watch our live stream at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Dave, I had to cringe a little bit when we were just talking to Benny, and maybe you saw the reaction on my face when he mentioned last weekend's road trip going to Benny Walchuk, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League broadcaster. We were doing the SJHL report. The last weekend's road trip from Flin Flon to La Ronge and then to Kindersley. Yikes. You got to love your job when you're doing that kind of stuff. You're doing it for the passion, I got to tell you.
You know what? One of my favorite places on the planet is Flin Flon. The drive there, though, gets a little eerie because there's a sign that says no services, and I can't remember, is it 200 kilometers or 120 kilometers or something like that? And, like, there's no cell service, there's nothing. And so what the actual SJHL officials do is they equip themselves with a satellite phone. So when they're going up, they have to have this satellite phone in case something happens when they're on the road, right? Because there's no cell service, there's no gas stations, there's nothing. And it's a cool drive, but I wouldn't want to do it if it's not ideal.
Well, it's one thing, like living here in Saskatchewan, like you've been to all over. There's a million Sasky places, whether you're up north or down south, that can be heavily populated, or you could pass the no services sign on major highways. But we were talking about scouts. Like, let's say you're a brand new scout, and let's say you're a Columbus Blue Jackets scout, and you've just been hired, and this is your new territory, and you've never been before, and you're coming from somewhere, and you're like, I'm going where? And you're driving, and you're still not there yet, and you're still not there yet, and then it's the middle of winter. Yeah, it's funny when Benny said you could easily notice the scouts in the building. Usually the trench coat or some sort of coat that not Saskatchewan people wear, a little bit of a different hairdo. And remember back in the days when you could smoke indoors, like in the press room, or the coaches were like where the donuts and coffee were, and they're like blue with cigarette smoke, and talking players and numbers. It's funny you mentioned the La Ronge Ice Wolves. You didn't. I did. Still to this day, the scariest guy and one of the toughest guys pound for pound to ever play in the Western Hockey League, Coach Kevin Kaminski.
Yep, for sure.
Wow.
And the La Ronge broadcast facility is fantastic because it's a small rink, right? It's a very small, compact rink in La Ronge. And the broadcast booth, right, so the perch that you broadcast from on is about 6 feet above the bench. So you can imagine the colorful insights that you get while you're broadcasting from La Ronge. It is top drawer.
Well, here's the only thing that didn't make sense. When you asked Benny, hey, what's the post-game meal going to be? And he's like, we're going across the street to the curling club. I would have been like, you're going to have like an old school buffet. You're probably going to have roast beef, some good mashed potatoes, some real gravy that was made like real, not some packaged stuff, vegetables, buns, butter. Like I'm talking, we're sticking cutlery in that top pocket, all that. Chicken Caesar wraps. What has this world come to?
Nutrition, my friend, the nutrition.
There would have been pierogies. There would have been cabbage rolls. There would have been Nanaimo bars for dessert. There would have been coffee that none of the players would drink because they're 18 and they don't drink coffee. Well, maybe they do drink coffee.
No, they do drink coffee. Believe you me, they drink coffee.
Yeah, but hockey rink coffee with Starbucks and an $8 drink or an iced coffee is one thing. But like hockey rink coffee out of the silver bullet canister in a white styrofoam cup?
Probably not. You're right.
There's two types of coffee. 7 games in the NHL tonight. And if you're an Oiler fan, the nightmare scenario that unfolded last night in Columbus, I was flipping channels. I was watching Monday Night Raw because it's funny. The Usos are back together and Roman Reigns and the World Series was on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you see the tickets went on sale for WrestleMania in Vegas? I will find it. It's ridiculous. The prices, nuts.
Yeah.
And I think I saw part of the Oiler game. I think it was 5-0 at that point for the Columbus Blue Jackets. But the overarching theme to the whole broadcast was Connor McDavid was injured. It was first shift in the first period, correct?
38 seconds in.
Yeah. Hurt, lower body, not returning. And then we find out after the game, Coach Chris Knobloch said he's not sticking with the team because they play in Nashville on Thursday. He's going back to Edmonton to be reevaluated. So is that precaution, or is that let's push the panic button because there's a lot of good doctors in the States that they would be able to run into, or people down there in medical facilities? What's your, not knowing anything, what's your take on this?
There's a lot to unpack here and a lot of questions that I have. But first and foremost, you've got to protect your asset, right? In Connor McDavid and his legs. It sounds like it's a lower body / leg injury, as the replays seem to show his foot going into the board awkwardly. And so that could be anything from a high ankle sprain to a broken bone. Again, the possibilities are endless. So you send him back to the experts, the people that you trust that are on your payroll. That's why he goes back to Edmonton, to get the best diagnosis available and then the best medical plan moving forward. So right now, it sounds like it's going to be another 24 hours before we get any definitive timeline or word as to what the actual injury is or may not be. That said, here's the questions that I have, or the dominoes that have fallen. So first and foremost, the teams in the National Hockey League, they all have charters. So did Connor McDavid...
PJ. Yeah.
Did he fly commercial back to Edmonton? Or does somebody that he know, like, do they get him a flight? You know what I mean?
Well, I thought of that as well because I have a weird offshoot story from the kids curling and some kids that they curl with. The dad just got a job. He flies a private jet, but he just got a job for a really rich family, I guess, in Ontario. Okay. And they have their own jet. So that's what I thought instantly. I'm like, Connor McDavid's probably flying on a private jet back to Edmonton because there's no way that they're like hustling him to the airport to get on an Air Canada or a WestJet flight back. Okay. So it's either Daryl Cates or somebody, a friend of a friend that has a PJ. We need him back home stat. I thought the exact same thing too. It was like, hey, he gets a PJ back to Edmonton.
So that's one domino. The other one is that I know a very large Edmonton Oiler fan that doesn't live in Edmonton, so is planning a trip to go to see Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. It's kind of interesting now that there is this injury that's going to keep him out of the lineup, and how there seems to be some tickets available in the near future for people that don't believe that Connor McDavid may be in the lineup when they want to go play. So the Edmonton Oilers, the way they sell their ticket, right, it's on a demand system, right? So if the Montreal Canadiens are in town against the Edmonton Oilers, you're going to pay a premium price to see them play. However, if a team like the San Jose Sharks comes to town on a Monday night,
yikes,
you're not going to pay said premium price. So if Connor McDavid isn't in the lineup, what does that do to ticket prices?
So because it's kind of like surge.
Yeah,
it's like surge pricing with Uber. Then, like when it's really busy.
Yeah,
they're like that trip that's normally $12. Oh, it's $39. Surge pricing.
Exactly. Interesting, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing. The opportunity that they had last year in the Stanley Cup final is now come and gone. And a lot of people, they'll have a good team. They'll be right back there. But then look what happens. Real life gets in the way. It's not as easy. You may have caught lightning in a bottle one year. And now, like I said, they haven't been off to a great start. If McDavid's going to be out for any length of time, there's a lot of other teams that are playing well. Vegas looked good. I think the Calgary Flames hot air balloon got a giant lance through it yesterday, and that's coming crashing back down to earth. Vegas looks good. If you're an Oiler fan, you better hope that maybe in the second half of the season they'll come back.
Right?
And then last night, Steven Stamkos returned to Tampa Bay. That was kind of neat. He did get an assist. They did end up losing. Tampa did beat Nashville in overtime, but there's a picture floating around before the game. Stamkos is taking warm up, and there's a lady in the stands that she had a T-shirt on that says "My GM sucks." she was a Tampa fan. All right, I think we got him. It's one thing to hear us go on and on and on about everything in sports, but it's one thing when we go coast to coast with one Arash Madani.
The all-new Sports Cage and Coast to Coast with Arash Madani is brought to you by Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Golly at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
Hey, Arash, on Saturday when I saw the email come out, it's funny, and we don't know each other all of that well, but instantly I thought of you when I saw the email, Randy Ambrosie to step down as CFL commissioner, and I just wondered, I wonder what's going through Arash's mind right now as he's seeing this email the same time as me.
Heck with that,
Are you
he wrote
surprised?
the story.
Well, I know, but okay, but has this been a long time coming? Did this just happen like within the past few days, or how long have you been keeping this a secret?
I mean, I wasn't keeping it a secret, I'll tell you that much. I got a tip on Saturday early afternoon from somebody that I trust and said, you should look into this. It sounds like he's out. And I'm like, what do you mean he's out? Like, it's a month before Grey Cup, not even. How could this be? And then I started calling around, a little inside baseball just on how this stuff works. And probably the first guys, like 8 to 10 people I called, didn't answer the phone. And that's when the spidey senses went up that, oh man, something is going on here. And then I started calling around kind of that second tier that would know people involved with the governors. And it sounded like I was onto something and onto the right track. But ultimately, it wasn't until I was able to get confirmation from 2 different people at the governor's table from 2 different teams who are not connected at all, was I able to go with it. And this effectively came down to the old regime of the governors and owners just having enough. And at that point, Randy kind of realized, okay, I don't really have the support that I need to move forward anymore, because they weren't going to give him a contract extension. That's what this conversation was about, was an extension for Ambrosie to remain as the commissioner beyond this tenure. And when he realized he didn't have that support, it all unfolded the way it did.
Can you confirm, like, there's reports that it was a 5-4 decision by the board, and does the board...
That's my report.
Yes. And is it natural for the board to meet, like, at this point in the season to make that determination? Like, was this a regularly scheduled meeting?
Yeah, they meet throughout the season. They meet at Grey Cup. It always depends on kind of what's going on and what's happening. I would say, and I don't know Dave specifically on this one, I would suspect when it comes to an extension conversation, that's going to reach the board level. I don't know when that board meeting was specifically, but the future of the commissioner of the Canadian Football League has to go through the Board of Governors. So whether or not this was one of those situations where X number of months out, X number of weeks before a Grey Cup to have clarity, whether that's a thing or if this was hastily put together, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this had to do with something else and then this was brought up. I'm not quite sure on the mechanics of that part of it.
So we're chatting with Arash Madani here on the all-new Sports Cage about Randy Ambrosie and no longer being the commissioner of the CFL past this Grey Cup. And from what you've reported and then what I read on shady sites on the internet and everybody just making stuff up, is one of the loudest voices at the table that may have been against Randy, is it Tannenbaum from Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, that they weren't happy with the direction, the way the league was going, or not getting what they needed? Is there some truth to that?
Well, if you put into a Twitter search Larry Tannenbaum or a Google search Larry Tannenbaum and Randy Ambrosie, he's gone on the record, not of late, but in the past, expressing his displeasure for the direction and leadership of the league. I think it effectively came down to this. There have been many people at the governor table who have felt that way. And it really took off. Like it had kind of been simmering and murmuring for a little bit, but once 2020 unfolded in the debacle in which it did, that's when things got really testy at the governor's table. And amidst all this, you couldn't do much because if you remember, first Ambrosie put in an ownership group in Montreal that lasted a little over 5 minutes, give or take, before they finally found Pierre-Karl Pelado. There was the debacle in BC after David Braley's death, where it took a while before they finally found Amar Doman, and they got a superstar there. Then came the Edmonton situation, where they're in so much debt at the community level, they decided to go towards ownership. So until you could really get 9 quote-unquote stable organizations to really move forward, this thing was in flux. My understanding of it, guys, was this. This was old ownership versus new. That along the way, look, Randy probably had the support in BC of Amar Doman because he put him in there. Had the support in Montreal of Pierre-Karl Pelado because he put him in there. Obviously, Larry Thompson in Edmonton, that has just happened. Those 3 are pretty much slam dunks that would be in support of Ambrosie. I would suspect, if you look around the league, Toronto, Hamilton, Winnipeg didn't have much time for him. So where the other 3 fit in, was Sask in support of Ambrosie or not? I'm not sure. Was Ottawa in support of Ambrosie or not? I'm not sure. But I would suspect that the 3 new owners definitely were part of the yes vote, and the 3 I mentioned, Toronto, Hamilton, Winnipeg, unequivocally were against.
So when you've got a board that is divided, right, and this decision is now made, and Randy Ambrosie is going to step down, obviously you now have to come together to find someone to take that position. How do they do that, or what are they looking for, or do they even know?
Yeah, Dave, it's a good question. Amidst all this, there is now a change in Toronto, don't forget, too, with the sale of MLSE. So where does that kind of fit into the equation here? And what does the CFL want to be? I think that's really the question that needs answering first. The other is, time is of essence. We are, 2 months away from 2025. The television deal, which is a big revenue generator for each team, effectively pays the players' salaries. The TV deal, or the broadcast deal, I should call it, because TV sounds archaic. The broadcast deal is up in 27. So these are 2 very important years coming up for the Canadian Football League. And the focuses, if you really think back over the last few years, they've been about the global program. They've been about East Coast expansion, which completely blew up. The priorities were almost fully out of whack. We are less than 4 years away from flag football being an Olympic sport. The NFL has gone all in on flag. Flag is going to be the future of football because parents don't want their kids playing collision sports as much as they did a generation or 2 or 3 ago. So there are some major directional changes that the league has to take moving forward with its next commissioner. And at some point, regardless of who it is, and Dave, you make a really good point here, fundamentally, the governors have to be aligned not only in who they pick, but in the direction in which they're going to go. Because for too long, the governors have just been about individual interests and having control. And so long as that continues, this league is not going to progress where it can and where it needs to. So it's not just spinning its tires.
Yeah, I'd have to say, when they got into all that global stuff, you kind of lost me. I'm like, give that job to a Canadian or an American. Like you're making token spots for token people, and if they're that good, they'll find their way onto our roster. They just will. Somebody will scout them. That everybody was losing their mind over the stat thing last year. I get it. I don't know. People were so mad. We still had product on the field.
These are basic things. These are basic things. They sign, like, in a new era where gambling is now kind of taking over professional sports. They signed a partnership deal with a book that was not regulated in Ontario, where a third of the franchises of the league exist. You're trying to get people to get in on the gambling thing. The reason why the stats matter is because prop bets and live betting are a big part of everyday existence. If you want to push fantasy, how are you going to do that? For 2 years, all we heard about was genius sports. I'm trying to figure out the genius part because I've seen the sports side of it. I mean, it's just been one debacle after another, and all we hear is the beginning of new beginnings. They need an actual reset. They need a refresh, and they need somebody in there who's got direction and a plan and an idea of what kind of matters in 2025 and beyond.
All right, let's talk.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm just going to say the name that's out there because he's running that basketball league. Mike Moriali, former Hamilton Ticat player, young, smart, knows business. If you can market basketball in a non-traditional basketball nation, kind of like we are, and I know we've had NBA teams for a long time, but minor league basketball, if you can market that and grow that, imagine what you could do with the CFL. So if he does end up being one of the guys that they do, or maybe you got to look somewhere else, said you need somebody that knows how to from somewhere from Vegas. They're a promoter, they're an event person, they're a show person, maybe not a sports background, but somebody that can expand on what we have, make it bigger. But Dave, I get it. Let's get to the games this weekend. We're going to quote you from a few weeks ago in a couple of minutes, but let's start. Ottawa and Toronto. We've already come to the surmise that Toronto's just playing really good football at the moment. Ottawa, too banged up. The Argos, if let's say we had stats, you're Sean Lemon. Are we putting our money on the Argos to win this game on Saturday?
I see what you did there. Copycat, pro sports is a copycat existence, right? So I think if you play this game 10 times, Toronto wins 9.5 of them. Like not even 9. The one thing the only thing that gives me a tiny bit of pause is I think back to the East Final last year where Chad Kelly threw, 67,000 interceptions in that game? Yeah. And why was that? It was because Montreal brought a whole ton of pressure and a bunch of exotic looks, and they continued to mix up their blitzing all over the field, and Chad started seeing ghosts. I have to believe that the Red Blacks are going to maybe not duplicate that game plan, but I think Ottawa is going to come out and do the exact same. Try and hit Chad Kelly early, try and bring pressure on Chad Kelly early, try and get him off his spot, try and get some of those old wounds to come back. Is it going to work? I doubt it. But that is to me, the pathway in which Ottawa has a chance to win is that. Because when you talk to people around the league about the Red Blacks offense, they'll tell you, if you shut them down the first quarter, that offense goes away. So this is how the Red Blacks have to go about it if they have any shot, any hope of winning on Saturday.
See, this weekend I was thinking to myself, somebody told me that Ottawa wasn't going to win another game this year. And then, I don't know, maybe a big freak storm came up or something. Isn't that what happens in the CFL these days?
That's right. That's right.
How important is this game to Chad Kelly? Like, if he doesn't perform, is there a chance this is the last time we see him in the CFL?
Oh,
no.
And the reason why, forget everything else, is there aren't 3 quarterbacks better than him, let alone 9. Like, it's the ultimate supply and demand existence. But I would say this. If the Argos don't win, you go from Grey Cup winners in 22 to East finalists in 23 to East semifinalists in 24. Again, I don't see it happening, but ... In addition, guys, I'm told John Murphy is persona non grata in Toronto these days. Like, he hasn't been seen around BMO Field in a while. Murphy's effectively, I don't know what his official title is, he's effectively the assistant GM. Vince Magri was the assistant GM. He went at the end of training camp to join the Buffalo Bills in their pro scouting department. That entire Argos front office, they're also without a president. Keith Pelly is coming in MLSE, blown out Bill Manning. I think regardless of what happens on Saturday, it's an altogether new front office in Toronto. I can't see Ryan Dinwiddie being out at all. Matter of fact, he's the one who's kind of kept this thing together through Cam Dukes and all the BS. But I would suspect that there are major changes afoot in Toronto, regardless if they lose on Saturday or win the Grey Cup. There's still a lot that has to be sorted out there.
Okay, 5 or 6 weeks ago on the Sportscage, you said you didn't think that the Saskatchewan Roughriders could win the Grey Cup because they hadn't beaten a good team. If they beat BC on Saturday with Vernon Adams Jr., would that qualify in your mind as a good team? Now, if Winnipeg is the bar, but to do that, are you still feeling that same way, or have you seen enough out of the Riders? Any progression there?
They're the hottest team in the CFL. I don't even think there's a debate about that. They're playing. Look, the name of the game is by mid-late September, get healthy, then get hot. And that's exactly what the Riders have done. And they're coming in with a bunch of momentum. And I tell you, if Nathan Rourke was starting on Saturday, I'd say this was going to be damn near walkover for the Riders. I think Vernon Adams gives you actually a little bit of pause here. I know this is a Saskatchewan show, fellas, but here's my question. I'm going to flip it on you, Maz, for both of you. If BC comes on the road and wins on Saturday, who is the Lions starting quarterback week 1 next year? And where does that leave Nathan Rourke? That's what I'm saying. Is Nathan Rourke the starting quarterback then in Edmonton? Is he the starting quarterback in Ottawa? Is he the starting quarterback in Montreal? Because can you really go with and sell Nathan Rourke this offseason in British Columbia after what you've seen the last few months? I don't know. I think that is, to me, that's the most intriguing thing that Saturday is going to provide us.
Well, I think that seeing how stubborn they were after VA got healthy to be like, no, it's Nathan, and VA is just biding time, pumping guys up on the sidelines, that I think regardless, they've hitched their wagon to that, and they'll probably go down with the ship being Nathan Rourke. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We had said earlier in the show, I would feel a whole lot better if we were facing a Nathan Rourke BC Lions team, just like you said. The VA thing scares me a little bit because we had Lapo on in the first hour, and he just talked about what VA brings to that offense that Nathan doesn't: stretching the field, explosiveness, big playability, and McInnes being the leading receiver and just always being in the right spot to get the ball. In that Saskatchewan zone, which we play a lot of, which other teams, when we have been taken advantage of, it's the zone that we take advantage of because we don't play any man.
Right. No, it's going to be interesting. I think regardless of what happens, I think if you look at it as Montreal versus Toronto or Montreal versus Ottawa, if you look at it as Winnipeg versus Sask or Winnipeg versus BC, to me the most intriguing game of the playoffs, not necessarily the Grey Cup, but of these 2 weekends, is the one at your place on Saturday.
All right, I agree. I think we're up against it for time. Colson's waving his arms, going crazy. Real quick, let's wrap on this. Does Mike McCarthy of the Dallas Cowboys survive the season with the debacle that they seem to manage? Because, I mean, Dak Prescott's going nowhere. They just signed him. CeeDee Lamb's going nowhere. Something's got to give. Does Mike McCarthy keep his job till the end of the season with the Dallas Cowboys?
I mean, I think so, only because who are you going to promote from within? Mike Zimmer, who still wants to operate with an overhead projector? I don't think Belichick's coming in mid-season to take over that train wreck. So, like, what do you really do? Are you really going to Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach? I mean, I just don't know what your better option is internally, and I don't know who externally wants to touch that thing.
Can I get a quick 40-second answer? I love the way you cover baseball, Arash. You know that. Does the World Series end tonight with Shohei Ohtani with one shoulder and Aaron Judge forgetting how to hit a baseball?
Yeah, I think so. And I'll just tell you this. Freddie Freeman has made all kinds of baseball history, not just with home runs in the first 3 games of the World Series. Fellas, he has driven in as many runs in the first 3 games as the New York Yankees have as a team.
Wow.
The last player to do that in the World Series was Lou Gehrig in 1928.
Oof.
That's how historic a run this week has been for Freddie Freeman.
Well, a lot of us didn't realize that Freddie Freeman was Canadian until a few days ago, because what pops up on Twitter and he starts talking about his mom and his dad and being from Ontario or whatever. I think there's a whole new crop of people going, we're huge Freddie Freeman fans and we love the LA Dodgers. So if it happens tonight and he gets crowned World Series MVP, it'll be very fitting because he's deserved it. Arash, we got to go. We've got to take a break. When we come back after 5, Glen Suitor, CFL legend and Grey Cup champion. It's time to break down some playoff football this weekend. Stick close. It's the all-new Sports Cage on 620 CKRM.
You get home from work, and as soon as you open the door, you realize,
oh, this place smells like
shocking surprise. You've got sewer problems. Let's be honest, sewer problems literally stink. You need to call someone who will get your sewer situation all sorted out. You need the sewer experts at Bronco Plumbing and Heating. They're number 1 in the number 2 business. Bronco Plumbing and Heating, serving Regina, Moose Jaw, and the surrounding area. 306-781-2090. Give them a call. They'll treat you right.
Hey, Rider Nation, this is Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's the playoffs. The games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca, and you can get in on the massive jackpots. You can even score quickly with the early bird prize. This week, it's 2 tickets to the Cardinals and Seahawks game in Phoenix, including flights and hotels, but you have to buy before Thursday at 5 p.m. Get your tickets at riders5050.ca, and go Riders!
License number LR240102.
Join Mac Auction Company, celebrating 20 years in the business of selling farmland and equipment in Saskatchewan. Mac Auction Company is Saskatchewan raised and Saskatchewan owned. We are farmers helping farmers. Visit MacAuctionCompany.com to view upcoming land and equipment auctions. Call Mac Auction Company today to book your land and farm equipment auctions.
That's Mac Auction Company, proudly serving Saskatchewan. See MacAuctionCompany.com.
The team of experienced farmland real estate agents at Shepherd Realty in Regina has just listed for sale 13 quarters of grainland near Gravelburg, 19 quarters of grainland near Cupar, 3 deeded grainland quarters with 4 quarters crown lease near Scout Lake, and 1 quarter of grainland near Mossbank. To learn more, or if you're considering selling your farm or ranch property, call 352-1866. ShepherdRealty.ca.
The Sask Sport Athlete of the Month Award celebrates outstanding performances in a given month by a Saskatchewan athlete or team. After achieving a perfect score on 3 dives and setting a provincial record at the 2024 Junior Elite National Championships, Cash Tarasoff was awarded July Athlete of the Month. In June, rugby player Carissa Norston was named the 2024 HSBC SVNS Women's Rookie of the Year and earned Athlete of the Month. To learn more and to nominate an athlete or team, visit sasksport.ca.
On the farm, dirt doesn't just get under your fingernails. It runs through your veins. Your equipment is just as tough. You bought it for its rugged dependability and efficient operation. To keep your machinery running as good as the day you bought it, you want genuine AGCO parts, fluids, and filters from Nick Service. Their friendly parts staff has what your equipment needs to keep it running at the top of its game. Keep it genuine at Nick Service, your local genuine AGCO parts headquarters.
Your friends at Prairie Gun Traders in Avonlea have exactly what you need this fall. From muzzle loaders, rifles to shotguns, you are totally covered this hunting season. Plus, browse through their great selection of ammunition, optics, calls, trail cams, scents, knives, and more. The hunting store that has it all at Prairie Gun Traders in Avonlea. You have a friend in the game. Main Street, Avonlea, or check out prairieguntraders.ca.
Whether Smokies after you or not, when you're on the road in your big rig, you're in a hurry to get to where you're going, and you need a part shop you can trust. Wolf Industries is the premium choice. They're your family-run truck mechanic shop with a full line of parts for big semis, with certified AC technicians for the hot summer. Stop in at their Grenfell location for all the parts and repairs you need. They're SGI accredited for safety inspections and have 24-hour emergency call-out. Wolf Industries, the best for your truck. 10-4.
Hey Rider Nation, this is Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's the playoffs. The games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca, and you can get in on the massive jackpots. You can even score quickly with the early bird prize. This week, it's 2 tickets to the Cardinals and Seahawks game in Phoenix, including flights and hotels, but you have to buy before Thursday at 5 p.m. Get your tickets at riders5050.ca, and go Riders!
License number LR240102.
The world-famous Keniston Super Draft is back for the NHL season, and $90,000 is up for grabs. Everyone is vying for the $20,000 first place prize. Be one of 14 winners of $1,000. Do new surroundings mean more points for Stamkos and Gensel in Music City or Stevenson in Seattle? Entries are just $40 each, 3 for $100 or 7 for $200. Find some buddies and get in on some real NHL pool action with the Keniston Super Draft. Superdraft.com. Entry deadline November 1st, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time.
It's 5 o'clock in Regina right now, partly cloudy, 6 degrees. I'm Andrew Dawson from the Harvard Media News Center with 620 CKRM News for Echo Sound in Fort Capel. Stay connected with a new cell phone from Echo Sound. Call 306-332-6711. 6 children have been injured with injuries described as serious after a school bus crash near Tisdale yesterday. This happened in the afternoon, about 3:30 on Township Road 424 and Rage Road 2160. That's about 22 kilometers southwest of Tisdale. According to police, there were 27 students between the ages of 14 and 17 on board the bus, as well as an adult driver. 26 students and the bus driver were taken to hospital. 1 student airlifted by Stars Air Ambulance to Saskatoon. 21 of the students had non-life-threatening injuries, but the bus driver and 6 other students had serious injuries. The RCMP say the bus was upright in a ditch, but they're unable to say if there are other vehicles involved or how the bus ended up there in the first place. Their investigation is continuing. Now more of 620 CKRM's continuing coverage of Sask Votes 2024. Premier Scott Moe says he's grateful the Sask Party has been given a 5th straight majority. With the Sask Party losing a lot of its representation in urban centers, Moe understands his party has work to do.
Just over roughly half of the voters voted for the Saskatchewan Party, and there's another half of the voters that voted for someone else. And I would say this, that I've heard the message that was delivered here this evening.
The Saskatchewan Party shut out in Regina, almost shut out in Saskatoon. And the NDP's Carla Beck says the provincial election saw voters sending that strong message to the government. The NDP remains in opposition, and Beck says while the result is disappointing for her team, they have work to do as well.
Seeing the healthcare system crumble, struggling as costs grow faster than their paychecks. The close result tonight is a message that the people of Saskatchewan want and deserve a government that puts them first, and we are not going to stop until that vision is a reality.
Beck says a fortified NDP opposition will hold the Sask Party accountable every step of the way. You can read more of our coverage of Sask Votes 2024 at 620ckrm.com and at sasktoday.ca. On to federal politics now. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland has rejected the idea of a secret ballot on Justin Trudeau's leadership of the party. A group of dissenting MPs began calling for a secret ballot after the Prime Minister said he was staying put, despite a letter from 24 MPs asking him to leave. Freeland says choosing the Liberal Party leader by a secret ballot in caucus is not how the party operates. Trudeau's leadership has come into question as the Liberals continue to trail the Conservatives in most public opinion polls. Dozens of Gordon Lightfoot's personal belongings are up for grab at an auction. The lot includes guitars, artwork, even some of his highest awards. Some fans are questioning why the items weren't rescued by a museum. The sale is being done in cooperation with Lightfoot's estate. It's 5:03, that's 620 CKRM News. Read more stories from around your community and around the province at sasktoday.ca and 620ckrm.com.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when... Uh-oh.
There are some things that can get spoiled. A sunny day, maybe.
Aw, and no or anything.
And then there's Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer, where they have all the top-of-the-line smartphones with all the latest features. With such a wide selection and so many great plans, nothing can spoil it.
Yay, rain!
Echo Sound, your SaskTel authorized dealer in Fort Capel. EchoSound.ca.
Calling all farmers, ranchers, and producers. Did you know you hold the key to a resilient agriculture future? Donate to Agriculture in the Classroom Saskatchewan and help connect students with agriculture. Together, we can cultivate a generation that understands, appreciates, and champions the heart of farming. A sustainable future begins with investing in education today. Make a charitable donation to Ag in the Classroom at aitc.sk.ca/donate.
And it's time now for a look at 620 CKRM Precision Weather Forecast. We've got both Halloween and game day in this one for you. Here's Precision Weather meteorologist Steve Adamson.
Our weather pattern will continue to be rather quiet onwards through the duration of the week as a large ridge of high pressure keeps things storm-free. Temperature-wise, will be pretty close to the seasonal averages for both our highs and our lows through the period. Tonight, mainly clear conditions, our low temperature dropping down to -10. Wednesday will be a mostly sunny day, the high temperature around 8. Wednesday night, partly cloudy skies, the low temperature near -4. Thursday is Halloween, and we see a dry day with a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover, the high up to 9. Friday, for the first day of November, a mixture of sunshine and cloud cover, the high around 7. And the weather stays quiet into Saturday with mostly sunny skies, the high temperature around 7. With your 620 CKRM weather forecast, I'm Precision Weather Meteorologist Steve Adamson.
Thank you, Steve. Right now in Moose Jaw, partly cloudy, northwest wind 24. It is 5 degrees. And in Regina, partly cloudy, northwest wind 27. It's also 5 degrees. For more local news that matters to you, subscribe to the daily newsletter at sasktoday.ca.
He's at it again. Matt's sharpening his pencil to save you big money at Matt's Furniture. From now until October 30th, save more with the Autumn Sweet Savings Event. Buy any 2 qualifying Whirlpool or Maytag kitchen appliances, like the Maytag Smart Electric Range with indoor grill, just $16.99, and save an extra $150. Buy 3 or more qualifying Whirlpool or Maytag appliances and save an extra $300. Matt's Furniture in Fort Capel, Kamsack, Melville, and Foam Lake, or online at mattsfurniture.ca.
When you want the best for your truck, you want Line-X. Your truck has withstood the harshest elements Saskatchewan has thrown at it. Rocks, gravel, rain, sleet, and snow, and left with no chips, no rust. Line-X protective coating keeps your truck's bed liners, rocker panels, and bumpers looking like brand new. Don't settle for Brand X. Go with Line-X. It's serious protection. Come see why everybody loves taking their truck to Line-X Regina for their rocker panels, bumpers, and more. Line-X. Make your truck complete. 1865 McCarra Street.
Broadcasting from Century Studios in downtown Regina, Harvard Media presents the all-new Sportscage, where Saskatchewan comes to talk local sports. Brought to you by Sask Lotteries, bringing communities together. Sask Lottery products fund over 12,000 sports, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Be a part of the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936. 6262. The all-new Sportscage. Streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.
Well, let's see. So far through the show, we've had a little bit of everything. We've talked some Rider football. Rider tickets to give away. If you'd like a pair of tickets for free for the game on Saturday against the Lions, all you got to do is text the word Riders to 306-936-6262. We talked some Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. We've talked some Major League Baseball. And I mentioned that tickets went on sale for WrestleMania in Vegas next year the other day. And we'll get this graphic up later. Dave, I'm not sure how much of a wrestling fan you are, but are you willing to pay $10,000 US a seat for some of the premium seating at Allegiant Stadium? Because that's the top tier of pricing.
Hey, if you're buying, I'll go, just so you know.
We won't get to it now, but I'll tell you the time. The only time I've ever been to Madison Square Garden in New York City was to go see, it was still the WWF, the Royal Rumble in the year 2000.
Wow.
Incredible building. I would love to see a hockey game there. Cheapest ticket into WrestleMania, $450. All right. If you've missed any of the show, we chatted with Paul LaPolice and Arash Madani. You can always check out the podcast at sportscage.com. It's time to talk CFL playoff football. He's our Grey Cup champion. He's our legend. It's Glen Suitor.
The all-new Sports Cage with CFL and Saskatchewan Roughrider legend Glen Suitor is brought to you by Quality Tire. With 9 locations across Saskatchewan, visit qualitytire.ca.
Hey, Suits, can we borrow the credit card to buy these WrestleMania tickets? Dave will Venmo you the money here in a couple days when we're cash flow heavy, and we'll get back to you on. Or maybe we make it all 3 of us go.
Just the 10K. So we need 30K just to get to this event. Okay.
Sitting ringside. So the CFL playoff tickets aren't that expensive comparatively.
Yeah, neither are the NFL tickets for that matter. I mean, that's the most expensive. How do I say it? Semi-sporting event, because it's sports, but it's also
entertainment. So yeah. There it is. If you're watching the stream, there it is right now. I'm not nuts. I'm not making this up. And the thing is, though, is people will pay that amount of money.
Yeah.
$450 is the cheapest. $10,000 is the most expensive. That's even more expensive than Super Bowl tickets. Holy smokes. All right. You did the game on Saturday. It was the Nothing Burger Bowl. Corey May said, we're going to flush this. We're going to move on. As Bill Belichick say, we're on to Cleveland. It was day number 1 of practice for the Lions, for the Riders. Is there anything from Saturday that you either really liked or anything that concerned you as someone who's a part of Rider Nation that should cause for concern?
No, really zero concerns. Unless there was an injury that I am not aware of that might cause a starter to, have to fight through some pain that he might not have had to. That's really the only downside of games like that for the team that's, knows where they're going to finish in the playoff race. And really all the positives are the young guys that got some playing time. So if there's a young guy that's now a backup that's on the teams, hard to just think of one off the top of my head, but if there was, and he got a little bit of starting experience, and if needed in a playoff game, if someone went down early, that's where those games can be a real plus and a benefit. So the result does not matter. You always want to win. There's no question you want to do it, and you always are frustrated or disappointed when you lose. But that one, it really won't register. What's most important is the focus this week, and that they have fresher legs for a lot of those starters, AJ Ouellette, Trevor Harris, those guys.
A lot of people have been asking me, Glenn, and I put this to you regarding the bounce back for the Riders from that outcome to this week. And I'm with you with everything that you said there. But with head coach Corey Mace not being that far removed from being a player, yeah, there is some distance there. But does that give him maybe an insight into today's athlete, knowing exactly what they need to be at their peak performance for the game that does matter coming up this Saturday?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we had the discussion with Corey Mace prior to the game, which we do every game when we're covering it, there was 2 plans before the game kicked off. There was plan A if the Bombers lost, and there was plan B if the Bombers won. And, they were watching, including Corey Mace, from field level, watching the big screen at Mosaic right up until that final field goal and the whole wind debacle and all that. So, in Montreal. So, I think him being sort of closer to his playing days and what he would have preferred to be 100% healthy, to sit out a game. You don't ever want to sit out a game, that's for sure. But you understand the reasoning, and deep down, honestly, a lot of the starters are going, good, because I can be focused on the game that really matters in a week.
You mentioned those guys that have sort of had their chance because of injury and got some precious playing time. And I think this may bear fruit. A.J. Allen is one of those linebacker types that teams, and then you put in the starting role. He had that interception against BC a few games ago. I know there's been a lot of storylines for the Riders, Roland Milligan being one, obviously the biggest, and it's overshadowed, but even the Del Duncan Busby in the few games that he's played and the catches he makes, he's sure hands. So here was but then the flip side of that, a guy that I was looking forward to seeing since training camp, Dave, I know you were too, Robustelli, and they went to him a lot, and I think he ended up with one catch in that game, but he had a lot of opportunity and just for whatever reason couldn't seize it. So I see what you're saying, that those guys with that tiny little bit of playing time, can you turn that into something where the coaches go, oh, I've got no problem putting A.J. Allen in now. Del Duncan Busby looks as much as part of the offense as the Sam Emelis, as the Sean Baines. It looks like he's been there all season and hasn't missed a step.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, the players you just mentioned, and Duncan Busby is maybe the most important one, because he, even if he didn't start, and I haven't seen the depth chart, and I'm sure it's not even ready yet, but he would be on the roster and ready to go, and those are such valuable reps. I mean, even when you drop a couple or so close, to go through an entire game where you have not made any mental busts, the coach will know that when they match up the play call with the game video and they're watching it back, and you don't have any mental busts, you make your blocks where you're supposed to make your blocks. Those are all things that the fan doesn't necessarily see. Well, I mean, a lot of fans will watch away from the ball, but if you're just following the ball, you often don't see, the backside blocking and things like that. And if those guys are executing their assignments, A.J. Allen in the right drops, taking the right man out of the backfield, hitting the right gaps on blitzes, all of those things that linebackers are asked to do, if he's, checked, all those boxes are checked, there's just that much more confidence with the coaching staff. If we need him, he's there and he's ready, and he's earned it through the special teams, which I love about that too. That story with A.J. Allen is, you have to go and get your nose dirty on the teams. You do that and you're ready for that opportunity on offense or defense. And this is another example of that. So yeah, I think they're well equipped, good depth. They should be favored, and I believe they are at this point. I think the Riders, I know on Thursday we'll go over the real breakdown of the matchup. But when I looked at as much as I was disappointed as well, and I don't cheer for any team, but as long as I was watching the Bomber game. I was watching the Bomber game. I'm watching the Bomber game like everybody else was, hoping that they would, that Montreal could finish that game, and that our game, because I was broadcasting in Regina, that our game would be for that home playoff game. So, yeah, so there was disappointment there, but then I started thinking about the matchup, and I think Luke Mullender has talked about this as well, but the matchup between BC and Saskatchewan is tremendously intriguing for a lot of reasons. I mean, we'll break it down, I know, on Thursday, but, Justin McInnis against, even though they don't match up at the same, like it might not be head to head, but Justin McInnis against Roland Milligan, the team that steals the ball more than anybody in the league by a long shot in Saskatchewan, versus Vernon Adams, who loves the deep ball, and who's just leaning on trying to sling it down the field. Well, does he become more conservative? The number one run defense for Saskatchewan, how much does that mean the BC Lions will go with William Stanback or not? They're going to go with him. But how much do they give him the ball? And how much do they still try to pound against a defense that ranks number 2 against the run in the CFL? So, you got a number 1 receiver in the league. He may be matched up against the number 1 DB in the league at times if they go trips into the boundary and things like that. Does Corey Mace want to make some adjustments to get Milligan matched up on Justin McInnis in second down situations or not? I think there's so many storylines in this one, and what a great matchup for the semifinal. I think it would have been a different one if it was the Bombers in BC. But this one is very intriguing for a lot of reasons.
Glenn, feel free to agree to disagree with me or just outright disagree. It's just like at home. Don't worry about that. But I would submit that perhaps mental preparation and emotion management are the most important things that you need to do in this prep week going into a playoff. And if so, when it comes to the emotion of absorbing pressure, is there more pressure in this game on the Saskatchewan Roughriders or on the British Columbia Lions to get a victory?
That's a great question, because you'd have to go and look at sort of the season in its entirety to kind of figure that out. And I would think the expectation with Vernon Adams' start to the year, I mean, the Riders started well also, but, they had a first-year head coach, a coach that hadn't been a head coach yet in his career at this level, had coached at the level, but not as a head man. So there was that change. There was some really intriguing signings, but I think going into the start of the season for the Riders, we looked at them saying, could be a very good team, but we'll wait and see. What does coach do when the pressure's on, and how does he react? First of all, by the way, all those boxes checked big time for Corey Mays. But for the Lions, it was home game for the Grey Cup. Vernon Adams, was averaging .375 a game to start the season. Then they bring in Nathan Rourke, and that bumped up the expectation meter big time for BC fans. And I know that has been a up and down sort of deal for both of those quarterbacks this year. It didn't turn out the way they thought it would. But I would say the expectation for BC was through the roof. So now the pressure is more on, I would say, them to try to take a run here and salvage it. Whereas Saskatchewan, with their first-year head coach, got a home playoff game. And, I'm not saying they'd be satisfied. Never be satisfied unless you have a ring on your finger. But beyond that, I would say there's probably a little more pressure. And remember, the game's still in Vancouver. So the Lions are in the dance and still have a chance to take a run.
A couple of names that scare me from the BC Lions roster. So you got Vernon Adams back, and it looked like they played inspired football when he was in the lineup. I'm not saying that they were doing what the kids do these days, quiet quitting, when it was the Nathan Rourke show, but the numbers bear out as much. Sione Tehuma and Keon Hatcher, a couple of the guys that. So first of all, Tehuma is just a problem on that D line because he can take on two blocks. He can disrupt things, which frees up room for other guys. And we haven't seen Matthew Betts really go off. He just kind of hasn't caught his stride from the NHL. But it's funny, a couple of plays, he's a big man that take up space. And Keon Hatcher, now back from injury, he seems to have more chemistry, or has always had, with Vernon Adams than he ever did with Nathan Rourke in this season. And Keon Hatcher is one of those guys. Great, you've doubled Justin McInnes. Well, now Keon Hatcher's open and cause you all sorts of problems, and you can take the top off the defense. And those are a couple of the guys that when you go through the Lions roster, outside of all, because all you ever hear is quarterback is everything. There's still 41 other guys that are. Rick Campbell assembles good football teams, and those are the couple of the names that stand out for me. What have you seen from Tehuma when you're watching him live? Because when you watch him on tape, you're like, he's impressive.
Yeah, he has developed into one of the pure pass rusher type guys. Still can play the run. That's one Achilles heel for the Lions this year, though, that they have struggled against the run. So again, that's another matchup we can talk about Thursday. But when you look at Sione, when I talked to Ryan Phillips about 2 weeks ago, I asked him about who is your best player on defense? From start to finish, not hot streak or had a good 4 games in a row or whatever, but who is your best? And he said Sione. He said Sione was our best player and most consistent player, and he can be a game wrecker. So he can be an edge guy that makes it difficult for Trevor. I think Betts can explode onto the scene. I don't know that he had to have had another sack a game type of pace to show and prove that he is still that guy this year. He certainly hasn't done that statistically, but he can get it done. You mentioned Hatcher, and Hatcher over the last 2 games, and actually looked inspired with Vernon Adams. But in fairness, he was still getting through his injuries, and sometimes when you're coming off an injury, mentally it takes you longer just to, even though you know the leg is going to be fine, you're still fighting some mental demons there, and you're not quite trusting that it's full speed out of cuts and breaks and things like that. So I think that took him a couple of games, and then Vernon Adams came back, and then it kind of clicked. That matchup is probably the way they line up lately. It's been Keon Hatcher in the boundary, and that's where Roland Milligan is. So I'm wondering, I'll just throw it out here because I haven't talked to the coaches yet, and they wouldn't tell me anyway going into a playoff game. I tell you that. They're not giving away any secrets on strategies. But, do you take Roland Milligan and on 2nd and long track him to Justin McInnis, leaving someone else on Keon Hatcher in the boundary, which is the sort of the lean on throw for a quarterback into that short side? Or do you leave Roland Milligan in his spot, leave the guys into the boundary the way they've been all year? And if Keon Hatcher is the matchup, then that's the matchup. And you rely on your defense to take care of Justin McInnis to the wide side of the field. Because right now, Justin McInnis has been the number 3 to the field for the most part, and Hatcher's been in the boundary where Roland Milligan lines up. So, again, we got a whole week now to break down all of these matchups, and haven't even discussed the commissioner.
What? Is there breaking news on the commissioner? All we heard on Saturday was there was an act of God and a wind gust, and the Bombers somehow won a game, and then the Riders, and then we're flushing everything or whatever.
Yeah.
This team looks a lot like that. How do you make sure that you carry over that momentum and the good things that you've been doing, even despite a little bit of a blip on Saturday against Calgary?
Yeah, the blip won't matter. What matters is the level of intensity, and that every single play, when you're the underdog, and I think the Riders will be favored, but they're when you're having to go through the 3 games, you don't get the final. I mean, I was never in that position anyway, so I don't even know what that feels like. But you don't get the final. You have to, every play you start to think you're more invincible. It's really that's the momentum of the teams that go through the semifinal route. The momentum that they're gathering is every single positive play becomes this feeling, because it's so intense and goes by so fast that you start to feel that you're invincible. We went into Calgary, and guys were making blocks and plays that really didn't do that during the regular season. I remember Duke Ellingson on a draw play to Brian Walling that was like an 80-yard play, and he made these block and took 2 guys out. And those you start to think, hey, we can beat anybody. We're invincible. We can go. And then you go into Winnipeg and you do the same thing, and then you're in BC and you're going, we're one more game away from it all. So it's like this snowball going downhill that just keeps building momentum, and you start to feel like we can beat anybody. And it's a great feeling to have that edge and that advantage, and feel like you, and plus, you know what else really matters is that you believe in your quarterback. And I think Saskatchewan big time believes that Trevor can get him there.
Yeah. So it's just funny you mentioned that, where the quarterback has always been that, even when Cody was here, the up and the down, and there was always those questions. There's no question about the quarterback in Trevor Harris. That seems to be taken care of. In chatting with Jeff Fairholm on the weekend, he talked about some of that 89 stuff, and he talked about kind of that same thing about, you started to believe. And it's funny, you saw it last year with Montreal, and that's the most recent memory, is that even on that last drive, when Montreal went down to win the Grey Cup, you're like, they've been playing so well, and just crazy enough, they're actually, and I know it's Winnipeg, there's a good chance they're going to go down and do this, and they're going to score. And then they did. But that wouldn't have happened had they not been having to play back against the wall football for the prior 8 to 9 weeks leading up. And the other thing, too, is if you come to the game early on Saturday and it's $5 happy hour beer prices, you too, if you're in Pill Country, will feel invincible by about the first quarter if you're there for 3 hours pre-gaming. All right, so Commissioner, were you surprised on Saturday when you saw the news on your phone that Commissioner Randy Ambrosie was done and that there'll be somebody new in charge potentially in 2025?
Yes, I knew slightly before it broke, but that's because our guy broke it. Not that that matters anymore, really, in a lot of ways. But the surprise for me was because I had talked to Randy about 2 weeks earlier, 3 weeks earlier in Edmonton, and we had a long conversation about a lot of things. And as you guys know, and I've said many times on this show, that Randy and I have disagreed on a lot of things, and I've also given him credit for a lot of successful things that have happened in the league. But I really appreciated that he always engaged me in a lot of the ideas that they had and maybe the direction they were going. And I had talked to him a few weeks earlier and flat out asked him about, how much longer he wanted to do the job. And so based on the answer there and the discussion we had, I was surprised by this announcement. But Randy, and to his credit, has gone year-to-year contracts. Like he didn't go in saying, I want a 5-year deal if I'm going to do this. He went in there saying, I'm good going to year, and you guys can evaluate at the end of every year. And that's what's happened. And I don't know how the vote went down. He didn't talk to me about that. I talked to him before the game in Regina after this announcement was made. I know Justin also interviewed him on the station. I talked to him about the timing, and that he said there's nothing controversial about this. This wasn't a contentious issue in the boardroom or anything like that. It was a look at the vision looking forward, and that the Board of Governors wanted to, enough of them anyway, wanted to, go in a different direction in a lot of ways. So, I think there was some good things, and I could list a couple. There was the Players Association agreement that was a 7-year deal. That had never been that long ever, and that is huge to allow for growth. If you're not renegotiating the CBA every year, that is just, it kills your marketing when you don't know if you've got the players signed up. I thought the new ownership groups that have joined the league and bought teams are outstanding, as good as it's ever been in its history. And Randy was important in brokering that. But there was also some things that I completely disagreed with, like, his push and discussions that I don't even know really how deep they really went. But Randy talking about merging with the XFL, which would have eliminated the Canadian ratio, and basically saying, we want to buy a ticket on the Titanic, which is what spring football is down there. And that, he and I disagreed to no end on that. That was just a complete opposites of opinions. And yet I didn't say it was wrong to explore it, but it felt like it was getting way too far down the road, and that this was something that he really believed could be successful. And I think that was an issue for me anyway. The European deal, again, I like the idea of pushing the elastic to explore it. I hate the thought of creating rules and roster spots when we could add another Canadian, or we could add another American, or both. And to make it mandatory to get someone from Europe or from Mexico was way too far to me, way too far. And that, let's look into playing a game in England. How much would that cost? And what could be the upside value of it if we did it like the NFL does? And maybe Europeans would just fall in love with the game if they saw it live. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And that may turn into revenues. But to mandate rules, again, I'm not sure if any of these things were the final sort of say for the governors of reason that this has happened, but I disagreed with a lot of those things. And, I will say this too about Randy. I think in the messaging department, early on, again, we disagreed on a lot of approaches there. But in the last 2 years, I've seen a real sort of 180 on that from him, that he is just basically saying what is truth, which is we have the most exciting brand of football on the planet. And that's the truth. And people will always argue that are huge NFL fans that it's bigger. And yes, it's a bigger business. But on the field, it is the most exciting brand of football on the planet. And, I heard you guys talk with Arash, and I thought he made a great point about flag football. Flag football is going to be huge, and I think we can win. I think we can win. Canadians can win the gold medal in flag football in the Olympics if we allow guys in the CFL to play. And that has to be started today. That negotiation, the Players Association has to be involved, safety, insurance, all of it has to be discussed now. And we're how many years away? 3-4 years away. But they got to start working on that right now. And Trey Ford and Nathan Rourke, our quarterbacks in the flag football gold medal game against Patrick Mahomes and whoever else they want to put out there. I think Mahomes would be one of my picks for flag football because they're so elusive. Like Trey Ford, how do you get his flag? So anyway, guys, I think it's at the end of the day, there's some good things that the commissioner did. I think the league and the game is at a very good place right now, and he should take credit for some of that. But boy, there was a bunch of things that that he missed on. Let's put it that way.
So obviously, with a change coming, there's opportunity. Right? So what type of opportunity should the CFL be exploring when it comes to a new commissioner? What type of vision? Again, flag football is huge in Saskatchewan, and you know that. So where does the opportunity lie with this change?
Well, yeah, it's a great question because now the board has to get together and decide what they want next. And there's sort of two basic ways that they can go. They can go to the corporate person, the person that is in finance, that is in corporate, a former CEO. Yeah. That's one direction. Or they can go in the football expertise, in the selling, marketing, messaging. Paul Tagliabue was one of the great NFL commissioners. And one of the reasons for that is because he understood messaging, and he understood that playing a game on Monday night and making it a feature game will change our league forever. That had nothing to do with, corporate sales and things like that. It was about messaging the game Monday night, matchups that everyone would love to watch. And it really elevated the NFL from a business perspective, and everything else fell into place from there. So, I think there's two directions to go here. I'm not sure which the board is thinking right now, and I'm sure they're going to discuss it probably at length at Grey Cup in Vancouver when they're all in the same city at the same time. And I'll be interested to hear what comes out of those meetings because there's really two directions. And for me, it would be Plan B, which is a great knowledge of the game, a great knowledge of the importance of the Canadiana in the game, creating the proper messaging start to finish, getting a 10th team has got to be the number one priority. Again, I'm not sure how far Randy got in that. Really, at the end of the day, he probably only knows, but I know the bad timing of COVID was an issue there. But anyway, guys, that to me is the two directions that they can go. I would suggest the second is most important, but we'll see what the governors say.
All right, Suits, it's great. We'll wrap on this. I don't disagree with you. One of the things that I think that needs to be taken into account is the TV product is there and you're going to get the viewers, but we can't forget about the fans in Rider Nation. Thursday night games, although it may work for TV, does not work for a destination fan base like we are. Let's become a Friday or Saturday night league like college football. Let's stick to that. Let's make it accessible to the fans. Let's get people back in the buildings and experiencing that. because you see it here, you see it in Calgary, you see it in Ottawa. We need people in the stands. TV or digitally, how you're watching is one thing, but there's nothing like, and you know this because you've been part of it, when Rider Nation is in full force in a packed house, it's what you can't game plan for, because that's not on a call sheet anywhere. That just is going to happen, and you cannot control it. All right, that's Glen Suitor for Quality Tire on the all-new Sportscage. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Freddie Freeman from the Los Angeles Dodgers talks about his Canadian roots and why he's proud. He's been the star of the World Series so far for the LA Dodgers. We'll do that in just a sec. The all-new Sportscage continues next on 620 CKRM.
The all-new Sports Cage is brought to you by Busy Bee Doors. Busy Bee will repair or replace your residential or commercial garage doors so you don't get stuck in or out. Catch the buzz. Busy Bee Doors, the garage door specialists.
620 CKRM is your home to country's greatest hits and the 90s at 9. 1 full hour featuring the biggest hits of the 90s. Garth, Reba, Alan, Shania, George, and so much more. No cassette tape or CDs required, and 90s mullets are optional. 90s at 9 for the town of Wolseley and the voice of Saskatchewan. 620 CKRM.
Hey Rider Nation, this is Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's the playoffs. The games are bigger, and so is the 50-50. Huddle up to riders5050.ca, and you can get in on the massive jackpots. You can even score quickly with the early bird prize. This week, it's 2 tickets to the Cardinals and Seahawks game in Phoenix, including flights and hotels, but you have to buy before Thursday at 5 p.m. Get your tickets at riders5050.ca, and go Riders!
License number LR240102.
Sask Power is working to improve the power system in your area. In order to do their work safely, they need to shut the power off for rural customers north, east, and west of Rocanville and surrounding communities from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. tomorrow, weather permitting. Again, the power will be out for 2 hours tomorrow for rural customers north, east, and west of Rocanville and surrounding communities. For updates on this outage, visit saskpower.com/outages. Sask Power apologizes for the inconvenience and thanks you for your patience.
Some will try to tell you 8 inches is enough. Others will say 10 inches will do. But when you want a lot of pizza, you gotta hanker down with the delicious 13-inch pepperoni from Western Pizza. Why mess with a good thing? You know what you want. 13 inches of pepperoni pizza perfection from Western Pizza. Western Pizza. Big on toppings, big on taste. Dine in or take out. Order today.
And get it hot and get it fast. Western Pizza.
You'll get the gist of it? Will I? Does a gist have to be given? Can I just take a gist? You know what can be really tough to get the gist of? Saskatchewan winter driving conditions. But at least your local Cooper tire dealer carries Cooper Discoverer Snow Claw winter tires. Cooper Discoverer Snow Claw winter tires provide exceptional grip and traction in the snow and ice. See your local Cooper tire dealer for Cooper Discoverer Snow Claw winter tires. They'll help you get the gist of winter driving.
There's no work too hard and no terrain too tough for Tracker Off-Road. Whether you work, play, or hunt, Tracker ATVs and side-by-sides get you where you need to go and provide the best value in the industry. Visit basspro.ca/off-road to find a dealer near you.
Welcome back to the all-new Sports Cage. Connect with the show. Call 1-866-767-0620 or text 306-936-6262.
3 games in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League tonight, including the Melville Millionaires in Nipawin to take on the Hawks. We chatted with Benny Walchuk earlier on the SJHL report. You can catch that podcast at sportscage.com. 1 game in the dub tonight. The Moose Jaw Warriors are on their West Coast swing. They're going to play the Prince George Cougars. Tomorrow night, the Pats are back home to take on the Prince Albert Raiders. And the all-new Sports Cage will be live from the Brand Center from 3 until 6. You can join Barney on the course. Get ready for the game. We'll have the pregame show with Dante DeCary at 6:30 and then play-by-play at 7 o'clock. 7 games in the NHL tonight, including the Flyers at the Bruins. I saw some of the Bruins team Halloween party pictures. Brad Marchand and his wife. Because they have money. They can do whatever. They can hire a stylist. There's some pretty funny stuff in there. This is probably one of the best times of year. The NHL teams seem to do it real well when they have their team Halloween parties and then put the pictures out on social media to be like, wow, those are some good costumes. That's some creativity. Some good creativity.
Guy who's always creative in the NHL is Marc-Andre Fleury. And if you ever watch, like, he does great stuff. But the one that got me earlier this year was in the preseason. He was scratched for the game, so he dressed up as the ice crew for
I saw that.
For the team in Minneapolis. So he's playing actually right now as we speak his final game, likely in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. Got a big standing ovation from the crowd there. So pretty cool tonight in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, although
Marc-Andre.
he's been a lot of places. I will always remember Marc-Andre Fleury as a Pittsburgh Penguin. Although, like he said, he's been on a bunch of other teams, but to me, I'll always remember him as a Pittsburgh Penguin.
Sure.
It's funny, like in chatting with Darian Durant, I honestly did not remember him ever being a Montreal Alouette. I don't know why, and I've watched the CFL every year. I only remember you as a Rider, man. He's like, okay. And I said, but that's how we are as fans. We only sometimes think of you as one way. Well, the World Series is going on, and if anything, even I think some of the baseball experts are surprised how the LA Dodgers are making it look very easy against the New York Yankees. They're up 3-0. Game 4 is tonight, but I didn't realize that Freddie Freeman, that's all you've seen on social media since the playoffs have started. I didn't realize he was Canadian. And then this came out on socials the other day. This is from Twitter. This is Freddie Freeman talking about how proud he is to be Canadian and why playing for Team Canada is so special to him.
That's the reason I play. It's to honor my mom. And if most Dodger fans don't know, there's a lot of things that go into each game that I do for remembering my mom. I wear sleeves every game. That is for my mom because she passed away of skin cancer. So it's just every time I put on my tight sleeves, it makes me think of her. I wear a cross around my neck that unscrews and has her hair inside of it. So Dodger fans, when you get to know me, pretty much everything I do is for my mom, and this is what I feel is right.
Dave, you've been around enough athletes. He doesn't seem like the typical ego-filled athlete. He just seems like a real, genuine human being.
When you hear that, is it not? It's impossible to cheer against him, right?
I know. Like how can you not? And what was the stat that Arash had? He's driven in more runs himself than the whole collective of the New York Yankees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just
don't
see that.
Okay, here's the thing. So we've mentioned that Freeman is really good at baseball and he's Canadian. Triggered Toronto Blue Jay fans. Now, it doesn't always equate this way. A lot of people, if they're in their car right now, why is he not a Toronto Blue Jay? He's Canadian. How did this happen? Why is he not on the Jays roster?
Well, he's kind of Canadian because he was born in Fountain Valley, California. So he is an American, but his parents were from Ontario. So his mom was from Peterborough and dad was from Windsor. So because they're both born in Canada, he holds dual citizenship.
I know, but that's all a Jays fan that's angry because nothing has happened in the past 9 years. All they need to hear is what? It's like the Joey Votto thing. Wait, what? What's going? Why are you not?
Yeah.
So tonight on the mound, and I don't know how this is all going to work out. Your starting pitcher, Luis Gil for the Yankees, and it's going to be Jack Flaherty in the rotation for the Dodgers as they're just going to throw everything out there to try and get this win in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium.
Well, they're not throwing everything because they've got a 3-0 lead. So they're going to use their bullpen to save a starting pitcher should they need it for Game 5.
If you're an athlete, do you care? Do you just want to win, or would you be like, no, let's try and get this back home so we can win in front of our home fans? Or do you just like, no, let's just get it wherever we can get it?
No, you don't care. But Game 5 is in the Bronx, right? So they're doing a 2-3-2 series. Yeah. And if you're the Yankees and I'm a starting pitcher, or pardon me, if I'm the Dodgers, well, if I'm either team, I'm a starting pitcher, I'll go. 3 days rest, throw me in, I don't care. Again, I just want to win right now. But, sometimes you need to take the longer view of it. If I'm the New York Yankees, I'm throwing anybody and everything in that can get me 27 outs tonight. That's all I need, 27 outs. If you can get me 3, you're in. You can get me 9, you have 3 innings work. Don't matter.
So here's the thing, Aaron Judge, who's a great regular season player, What is his bad? He's 5 for 46 in the postseason combined, I think, in all of his playoff games. Like, it's not, that story is not writing itself for the happy ending that I think a lot of people, if you're talking about Aaron Judge from the regular season, that's not transferring over to the postseason yet. Now, maybe it will click somewhere along the way, but it's, last night, they even fooled the play-by-play guy. He connected one to left field there, and it was just a long fly out. Because when I saw it, but this is when I wasn't watching wrestling, I'm like, uh-oh, Aaron Judge just connected, and it's caught.
Well, I think a lot of it, number one, has to do with the trajectory of his baseball, right? And it doesn't carry as well at this time of year, scientifically. Number two, I think a lot of it has to do with in between his ears hitting in the postseason because, again, you have to have belief. You have to have confidence, and I don't know if he has that because there's some that will say, well, they're pitching him different in the postseason. Well, no. 162 games, nobody is going up there and lobbing up a softball through the middle of the plate for him. He's had to hit tough pitching throughout his career. For whatever reason, it just hasn't translated into the postseason. Yeah,
I don't know if anybody like, oh, they're pitching him different. Well, no, they've still got to come. They still got to try and get him out. But as we'd mentioned earlier in the show, maybe if you're the New York Yankees, maybe you pitch around Freddie Freeman. You don't have to intentionally walk him, but you just don't give him anything. But then who knows? He's a good enough player. He can take something probably out of the strike zone and stroke it out if he gets to it. Let's see. Oh, we got confirmation. Craig Reynolds from the Riders is going to be on the show Friday. He's going to come in studio and he's going to come and hang out. With the Riders game on Saturday, all of the ticket deals from the regular season are still in place. The CFL is one of the leagues, and they don't raise the ticket prices when it comes to the playoffs, and this is kind of nice. Things are expensive enough as it is, so take advantage when you can. So the Me Plus 3, it's you and 3 friends, and you can save 20% when you buy 4 tickets. The Family Pack, 2 adults and 2 youth tickets for $99 plus tax. That's pretty good. Hockey is even more expensive than that. Like, that's 4 tickets to somewhere. Pill Country is $35. That's where you, like Suit said, you become invincible with every play, every sip in Pill Country. You, Dave Thomas, become invincible. I would love to see you guys do part of the Rider Nation pregame show, you and Luke. From Pill Country.
Luke's definitely in. You don't have to ask him twice. But it's going to, the other thing is...
Then Luke will be like, can I stay out here for the whole game? Yeah. Can I just get a cordless mic?
We've lost Luke. No, but what I think is they're wearing the Obsidian jerseys, which I think is pretty cool. But today, the Obsidian look wasn't the only thing that had changed because A.J. Ouellette had changed as well today at practice. His look, dramatically. It caught everybody off.
No, he didn't cut it. He didn't cut his hair, did he?
Didn't cut his hair.
Did he shave his beard?
Didn't shave his beard.
Did he color his beard?
He colored his hair. He decided that it was the same color now that it was when he won a Grey Cup. And he said, hey, everybody's going Obsidian, so he's got Obsidian hair, essentially.
Obsidian green hair.
Well, yeah, it's darker, right? It's definitely darker. It's not the blonde anymore. Caught everybody off guard. Everybody. And he looked at me, and so of course I brought it up to him. I saw him. I'm like, "What's the hair? I like it. It looks good." And he's like, "Everybody's going to focus on this." Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Hey, the playoff rally in the Harvard Studio 620 starts at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. You'll have a chance to meet Gaynor, the cheer team, the pep band. Sean Bain Jr. and Jamarcus Hardrick will be signing autographs from 2 until 3. The first 15,000 people through the gates at Mosaic, Dave, are going to get the Believe banner bangers. Free noisemakers. That's going to be awesome. $5 beer on the concourse until 30 minutes before kickoff. They've had that happy hour all year, and that's great. You can always pay more later. Why not pay $5? And then DJ blends in the south end zone. And here's the thing. We were talking about this earlier with Benny. Just some random songs coming on the Spotify playlist yesterday. Some Conway Twitty, Waylon Jennings. And Benny had mentioned We're older. We're not into the music the kids listen to. So on stage at halftime, they're called the Icons, the Kiss Experience. And I'm going to have to believe dollars to donuts. This is the full makeup Kiss. This is not the mid 80s into the early 90s no makeup Kiss. Not that Heaven on Fire is not a banger. Trust me, I love that song. Or Forever. Remember trying to dance to that in high school dances? Although your high school experience was way weirder than mine.
Yeah,
but
don't go there.
when it comes to Kiss, I think a lot of us can agree. Maybe we should make the double C's Curtis and Colson dress up as half of Kiss for Halloween on Thursday.
Oh, well.
Paul Stanley.
Oh,
my God. Look at that.
Patrick Mahomes is what it was.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes. You've got that done, right? I forgot about that.
No.
Are we dressing up on Thursday? Is that a thing?
I think we have to run that down with Barney and Sharky. Because it's Thursday Sharky's Day, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but remember a few weeks ago when Sharky started wearing those shades and we couldn't tell, is he serious or is it a joke? Like, is that going to be Thursday? Like, are we going to be laughing at him or with him? Like, are we allowed to say anything? Like, I don't.
I don't think it matters if it's at or with him. We'll be laughing one way or the other.
Yeah.
One of the
other way.
One of the best Halloween costumes, and it was easy to put together. It was actually a wedding gift. Well, one of my wife's bridesmaids, I guess, worked at Starbucks when she was in university, and so she got all the aprons and stuff, and a lot of the nice coffee. Like, real coffee supplies are really expensive. So I remember she got us these really nice Starbucks aprons. So one year I put on a black shirt and green apron, had a headset or whatever, and normal. Nothing worse than a Halloween costume when you're restricted and you can't do anything. Like, sometimes it looks really cool until you're like, oh, now I have to sit down. Oh, now I got to try and go to the bathroom or something. You're like, this maybe wasn't a great idea. The Starbucks barista thing was easy. Well, it was easy back then. You didn't have to have tattoos or piercings and stuff. That's what it is. What? And now they have that industrial you go to some coffee shops, they have like that industrial apron on that my dad used to wear when they were welding, with the heavy leather strap and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, you're making an oat milk latte. Like, we're not erecting a bridge here. Okay.
You know what?
I
think we don't have any more time in the show, Maz. I think you gotta just stop talking.
And Curtis, you and your generation, don't spin that little iPad around and expect a 35% tip on a $4 coffee. Not against tipping. It's just some of those things you're like, whoa, what is the world coming to here? Is that it? Are we good? Have we covered
that wasn't a joke. We're actually done.
Oh, okay. We're actually out of time. All right. Hey, thanks for being part of the all new Sports Cage today. If you have anything to say about the show, you can track down the double C's. Just to, hit up their MySpace account if you want to leave comments. From the Brand Center for the Pats game. The Raiders are going to be in town. We'll be there from 3 until 6, and then we'll have the game on the radio starting at 6:30 with the pregame show. If you missed any of our interviews, Paul LaPolice, Arash Madani, Benny Walchuk, or Glen Suitor, you can always catch the podcast at sportscage.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.
Dear, it's time to replace your tires. Your performance tires.
What? I don't need performance tires. That's some macho thing.
Well, actually, you have them now.
I do?
Yeah, that's what makes your car feel so safe.